Pokémon, the strongest trainer. Welcome back, brave explorers of impossible worlds. We are excited to have you here to continue this odyssey together. Before we continue, everything you'll hear is pure fiction, so please don't try to replicate combat techniques at home. This wonderful story and all its rights belong to its brilliant original author. We are only the messengers of entertainment. Want another dose of adventure? Subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a single chapter, and if you can't wait, our Patreon has exclusive surprises you'll love. Chapter 151 Team Rocket's Conspiracy. Feng looked at the black-clad figures before him, and a sudden realization dawned on him. So it's Team Rocket's doing, he pondered for a moment, suppressing his curiosity. He concealed his presence, watching Team Rocket's movements. As if hearing footsteps nearby, numerous trainers turned behind them, their faces filled with astonishment as they gazed upon the sudden appearance of Team Rocket. A figure wearing a golden mask emerged from Team Rocket's ranks. He gazed at the bewildered trainers with a mocking expression, then waved behind him. Instantly, countless Team Rocket members, commanding their Pokémon, launched a direct attack on the trainers at the Lake of Life. After these attacks, the trainers, belatedly realizing their actions, attempted to counterattack with their own Pokémon, but it was too late. The trainers, reacting hastily, were no match for Team Rocket and were quickly defeated. At the command of the Golden Masked Team Rocket leader, all the trainers at the Lake of Life were captured by Team Rocket members, their Pokéballs confiscated. Go-Go, who had tried to struggle, was severely beaten by the captured Team Rocket members for his actions, and could only watch in silence. Master Biksha, just as you expected, these trainers have arrived, a Team Rocket leader said flatteringly to the masked leader, looking at the trainers who had lost their ability to fight back. HMPH. Just some overconfident trainers. Now, prepare for action and lure Celebi out for me, Biksha said, a satisfied look on his face. The surrounding Team Rocket members, upon hearing Biksha's command, quickly moved, placing various instruments in their designated locations and tinkering according to the plan. The guarded trainers, having overheard the conversation between Vicious and the Team Rocket members, were completely bewildered, their faces turning livid. They had never imagined this was a setup by Team Rocket. The grumpy uncle quickly asked the Team Rocket members beside him, "So, there's no Suicune in this forest?" Upon hearing the uncle's question, the guarding Team Rocket members' expressions brightened even more. They said sarcastically, "It was Team Rocket who originally spread the news of Suicune appearing in northern Asagi City. We just didn't expect it to attract so many trainers this time. We're really surprised, damn it. Team Rocket, why on earth would you do this? Aren't you afraid of attracting the League?" a red-haired trainer said angrily to the Team Rocket members after hearing their response. "Tisk, why are you doing this? To steal your Pokémon, of course. As for the League? If we can capture Celebi in this forest, Team Rocket will surely rule the world. Who knows who will be afraid of whom then?" The Team Rocket members glared at everyone with a hint of scorn. All the trainers couldn't help but glare at the Rockets with grief and indignation after hearing their words. At the mention of Celebi's name, their breathing quickened again, and their vision brightened. But after seeing their own state, they shook their heads, sighed deeply, and became deeply dejected. They had never imagined that Team Rocket's target was Celebi, the god of the forest. Feng, hiding in a tree, suddenly understood after hearing the Team Rocket's words. "They're coming for Celebi, but the timing seems a little off, doesn't it?" Feng took in the scene before him, a hint of confusion on his face, and murmured softly. If Feng remembered correctly, the Lake of Life storyline should have taken place during Ash's trip to Johto. Yet, for some reason, it had happened so much earlier. After pondering it silently, he could only attribute it to the butterfly effect caused by the player's appearance. Time passed slowly, and in the blink of an eye, an hour had passed. Bixius looked at the already installed and debugged equipment and quickly signaled to the numerous Team Rocket members to start the machines. With a roar, a sharp sound echoed throughout the Celebi forest. Listening to the cacophony, pained expressions crossed everyone's faces, and they became extremely depressed. Meanwhile, the numerous Team Rocket members began destroying the forest, hoping to lure out the time-traveling Celebi and lure it into the Celebi forest. After an unknown amount of time, a gentle breeze rustled through the forest, and the rustling of falling leaves sounded like a mournful wail, gradually becoming somewhat desolate. A dazzling green light suddenly erupted from the shrine near the Lake of Life, sending ripples of light through the air. Bixius and many of the other Team Rocket members burst into laughter at the sight. A few minutes later, Celebi's figure emerged from the rippling waters and appeared directly within the Celebi forest. It gazed at the devastated forest, its face aching with sorrow, and it whimpered. "Celebi, you finally appeared." Bixius stared at him intently, his face awash with fervor. Celebi, upon hearing Bixius' voice, instinctively raised its head, gazing at the menacing Bixius, and quickly flew away from him. Seeing Celebi's movements, Bixius quickly launched its Pokeball and chased after him in its massive machine. Celebi has truly appeared. Numerous Bound trainers, fascinated by the scene before them, couldn't help but mutter. "Damn it. I'm tied up. I want to capture Celebi too." Gu Hao stared at the newly emerged Celebi with an expression of extreme annoyance, seemingly resigned to his inability to capture her. Lu Feng, watching the scene before him, knew he couldn't wait any longer. He quickly left his hiding place and chased after Bixius. Chapter 152, Battle against Bixius. Celebi flew through the forest, using the trees for cover to dodge attacks from behind. Bixius watched Celebi flee, manipulating his massive machine and sending two of his Pokémon in pursuit. A fierce-looking Ola and a furious Mantis condensed their skills and launched attacks at the panicked Celebi. Ola's sharp claws, brimming with energy, hurled shadow balls at the flying Celebi. However, as Celebi dodged, many of the shadow balls missed their target, slamming directly into the surrounding trees, severing the lush greenery and sending them careening to the ground. Mantis, using a high-speed maneuver, advanced to Celebi's path, brandishing its crimson claws and unleashing its metal claws attack. Celebi couldn't dodge and was directly hit by Mantis's attack. A grimace of pain spread across his face as he tumbled to the ground nearby. Celebi called out weakly, looking at the approaching Eula and Mantis not far away, trying to fly again and avoid Bixius's grasp. Eula, Mantis, quickly stopped Celebi. Bixius, piloting his massive machine, watched Celebi about to take flight again and hurriedly called to Eula and Mantis. Hearing Bixius' words, Eula swung its sharp claws, performing the shadow claw technique, while Mantis extended its sharp pincers and attacked Celebi with a cross-scissors technique. Seeing these two attacks about to land on Celebi, already not very skilled in combat, closed his eyes, a look of panic on his face. Then, a powerful wave of energy erupted from the forest, shooting towards the location of Celebi and Mantis, slamming heavily into them. Under the powerful impact, Mantis and Celebi were unconsciously thrown out and slammed heavily into the trees behind them. Celebi heard the movement and slowly opened his eyes. He looked at the scene in confusion. After carefully sensing it, he detected a familiar presence. He shouted with some surprise and flew towards it. Seeing the sudden change, Bixius' face darkened. He flew towards Celebi and shouted angrily, Who is stopping our Team Rocket operation, Tisk? Are you sure this is Team Rocket's action and not your own selfishness?" As Bixius' voice fell, a sneer echoed from the forest, questioning Bixius with disdain. Upon hearing this, Bixius' forehead began to break out in a cold sweat. He stared nervously at the source of the voice, feeling a wave of unease. Although Bixius' operation was nominally under the guise of capturing Celebi for Sakaki, his true intention was to harness Celebi's power to dominate Team Rocket and the entire world. So, upon hearing this voice, he felt as if his inner thoughts had been exposed, and he became completely panicked. "What are you talking about? Get out here now," Bixius roared fiercely, his tone tinged with fear. "Whether I am talking nonsense or not, you know it yourself. If Sakaki knew he had such a traitor under his command, what do you think would happen to you?" After hearing Bixius' words, Lu Feng's lips curled up slightly, revealing a hint of disdain. He stepped out of the forest, accompanied by Swampert and Gardevoir, and stood before Bixius. Upon spotting Lu Feng, Celebi flew directly to his side, perched cross-legged on his shoulder, and pointed at Bixius, shouting angrily. Lu Feng used Bixius' power to soothe the frightened Celebi, gradually calming it. "HMPH. Nonsense, who the hell are you? Hand Celebi over." Bixius stared at Celebi on Lu Feng's shoulder. His eyes filled with fiery obsession, and shouted at him. Seeing Bixius' continued defiance, Lu Feng glanced at Swampert and Gardevoir beside him, signaling them to attack. Swampert and Gardevoir, catching Lu Feng's gaze, understood and quickly unleashed their respective skills, attacking the machine Bixius was in. A stream of murky water erupted from Swampert's body and landed directly on the machine at Vicious's feet, making it extremely damp and sending plumes of black smoke billowing. Gardevoir activated its Eye of Miracle and used its psychic power to send back the swarms of ogre and mantis that were attempting to support Bixius back. Bixius's face darkened as he watched the sudden change unfold before him, as if shrouded in gloom. He pondered for a moment, then pulled a black Pokeball from his pocket. With a fierce glint in his eyes, he hurled it towards Swampert, Gardevoir, and Celebi. Feng had long known from his memories that Bixius possessed Team Rocket's special Dark Orbs. These Dark Orbs could forcibly capture other Pokémon and cause them to transform into a darkened state, unleashing power far beyond their normal capabilities. Therefore, Feng remained vigilant against Bixius, constantly monitoring his movements. Upon seeing Bixius take action, Feng's voice suddenly rang out. Jengar, use Shadow Balls, shoot down those dark balls, Ku. Chapter 153, Suicune in front of the Lake of Life. Cough, cough, cough. Feng waved his hand to clear the surrounding smoke, coughing a few times. He watched the frantically fleeing Bixius and shook his head, his mind racing. Bixius embodied all the qualities of a villain: evil, hypocritical, selfish, and self-centered. He was a complete villain through and through. Compared to other villains in the Pokémon world, his strength was not only unremarkable, but he also lacked any charisma. While he harbored ambitions, he had no boundaries and would sacrifice his teammates and Pokémon for success, which was why he had so few achievements. Feng, looking in the direction Bixius fled, quickly rushed over with Celebi and his Pokémon. He knew Bixius was a man who would never give up until he achieved his goals. So, for Celebi's safety, Feng wanted to treat him to a good prison meal. Celebi's face lit up with excitement after seeing its pursuer, Bixius, being chased away by Feng. Hearing Celebi's cries, Feng smiled faintly and gently stroked his onion-shaped head. Meanwhile, Bixius, having shaken off Feng, sped away on his motorcycle towards the Lake of Life. He cursed Feng as he ran, his expression gradually contorting. Damn it! I was just that close to capturing Celebi, remember this, little brat. When I gather all of Team Rocket, I'll make you pay for it. A few minutes later, Bixius returned to the Lake of Life. Seeing Bixius's bewildered expression, the many Team Rocket members rushed over, trying to offer him compliments. They assumed Bixius had already captured Celebi and rushed forward to congratulate him. But they didn't notice Bixius's increasingly ferocious expression, nor the terrifying aura that continued to overflow. Bixius listened to the endless congratulations from Team Rocket, his expression growing increasingly grim. He roared at them, "Shut up! Gather all the men now! I'm going to show that brat how powerful I am." Yes, Master Bixius. We'll gather the men right away. The red-haired Team Rocket leader, seeing the fury on Bixius's face, suddenly realized what was happening and shouted at him. The bound trainers couldn't help but beam with joy upon hearing Team Rocket's defeat. Guhao even couldn't help but shout at Team Rocket to release him immediately. He then received another beating from Team Rocket, leaving him bruised and battered. Unfortunately, Feng didn't see what was happening. Otherwise, he would have applauded the Team Rocket members. After gathering all the Team Rocket members, Bixius's face lit up with satisfaction. Just as he was about to lead them to seek revenge on Feng, he saw a figure suddenly appear before the Lake of Life. Hidden in the white mist, its footsteps rippled the surface as it moved. Ribbons fluttered in the whistling north wind, showcasing their graceful beauty. The unusual change before the Lake of Life caught everyone's attention, drawing all eyes to it. Bixius gazed at the sudden appearance, a flicker of joy crossing his face. He said in a hoarse voice, "If we can't catch Celebi, catching Suicune is good enough." The surrounding trainers, observing the sudden appearance of Suicune, wore strange expressions on their faces, looking at the Team Rocket members with quizzical eyes. The Team Rocket members, sensing their gazes and recalling what they had just said, felt their faces turn red. They naturally knew what the trainers meant. But they hadn't anticipated that a piece of fabricated news could actually attract the real Suicune. Suicune lowered his head, sipping from the Lake of Life. Hearing Bixius's words, he sensed the sinister aura emanating from him. He slowly raised his head and let out a soft howl. "It's the real Suicune. Team Rocket, let me go. I'm going to capture Suicune." At this moment, the bruised and battered Guhao, upon seeing the real Suicune appear, instantly forgot the beating he had just received and shouted again, brazenly, at the Team Rocket members around him. Upon hearing Gogo's voice, Bixa's brow furrowed slightly. He glanced disapprovingly at the Team Rocket member guarding Gogo and said indifferently, "Hey, you, shut that annoying guy up." "Yes, Master Bixa," the Team Rocket member guarding Gogo shuddered and said in panic. He glared at Gogo fiercely, once again making him feel the iron fist of love. After Gogo's voice faded, Bixa turned his attention to Suicune and ordered the other Team Rocket members to launch their Pokémon to attack Suicune. Instantly, countless skills and moves were launched at Suicune, just like the previous trainer's attack on the fake Suicune. To everyone's shock, Suicune looked at the incoming attack and, without dodging or avoiding it, launched a direct counter-attack with Ice Beam, attacking the Team Rocket members. Boom! A violent explosion echoed as Suicune's Ice Beam, breaking through Team Rocket's attack, shot towards their position. Countless trainers sensed the terrifying power of the attack, their faces turning pale. Only after witnessing the scene did they understand what a legendary Pokémon was. Thinking back to their own desire to capture Suicune, they found it absurd and couldn't help but laugh at themselves. Team Rocket, watching the incoming Ice Beam, trembled in fear and scattered to the sides, dodging this terrifying attack. As everyone watched, the icy blue Ice Beam crashed directly into a massive tree, causing it to topple in half and plummet towards the trainers and Team Rocket. Due to his injuries, Gogo had no time to react and was crushed by the massive tree. Feng, accompanied by his Pokémon and Celebi, had just returned to the Lake of Life. He looked upon the scene before him, and upon the figure of Gogo buried beneath a giant tree, with a look of profound astonishment. Through his wave-guiding power, he could sense no trace of life beneath the tree. Feng couldn't help but lift his chin, muttering to himself, "So, Gogo is done for." He pondered for a moment, then nodded, slowly accepting the truth. After all, Gogo wasn't Satoshi, possessing the unruly physique of a super rookie. Chapter 154 Feng, Shujin, you finally stood up. Feng carefully surveyed the giant tree for a moment, taking in the chilly frost that permeated it. Then, glancing around, his gaze settled on Suicune, a thoughtful expression on his face. He glanced at the graceful Suicune, then at the lifeless Gogo beneath the tree, a complex expression on his face. If it weren't for the sheer number of people here, Feng would have wanted to give Suicune a thumbs up and shout, "Suicune, you've finally stood up." Recalling Suicune's appearance in the special, he was truly impressive. He personally challenged all 8 Auto gyms, completely crushing them all except for the hidden boss, Gulu. Who could have imagined that in the so-called new Pokémon, Suicune, once so graceful and a true mythical beast, would be caught in a Pokémon hunter's net and captured with a single shot from Gogo. A disgrace to the mythical beasts, their prestige shattered. At this thought, Feng's heart became restless, his emotions surging. As if sensing Feng's strange gaze, Suicune in front of the Lake of Life's eyes flashed with confusion, lapsed into daze, somewhat bewildered. Suicune. The surrounding trainers finally reacted, their faces filled with immense relief as they watched the scene unfold. Taking advantage of Team Rocket's distraction, they escaped the confines of the Lake of Life and headed towards the outskirts of Celebi Forest. Vixius, watching the scene before him, his gaze on Suicune intensified. He quickly took out a dark ball and hurled it towards Suicune, hoping to seize this opening to capture him. Suicune glanced at the dark ball hurtling towards him, roared in fury, and focused a powerful beam of light from his mouth, attacking the dark ball's location. Destructive Ray. A powerful, dazzling beam of light, carrying a powerful energy attack, slammed directly into the incoming dark sphere. Under Bixia's furious gaze, the dark sphere exploded into countless tiny fragments, scattering in all directions. Some landed on the shore, while others fell into the Lake of Life. Due to the dark power contained within the dark sphere, the entire clear, emerald green, vibrant Lake of Life gradually became polluted, becoming turbid and smelly, losing its original life force. Celebi, sitting on Feng's shoulder, watched this scene with a wave of anxiety. He called out to Feng in panic, his voice filled with sorrow. Feng, only to be brought out of his reverie upon hearing Celebi's voice, snapped. Following Celebi's guidance, he glanced towards the Lake of Life, his expression changing slightly. Feng first used Vixia's power to soothe the agitated Celebi, then turned to look at Bixia and Suicune. After a moment's thought, Feng gave orders to Swampert and Gardevoir. Swampert, use Root Wave on Team Rocket's Pokémon. Gardevoir, use telekinesis to control Team Rocket. As Feng finished his words, Swampert and Gardevoir erupted with powerful aura, unleashing their respective abilities and attacks on Team Rocket. Swampert, shimmering with a bluish-white light and carrying a terrifying aura, descended directly upon Team Rocket's Pokémon. As they stared in disbelief, it instantly annihilated all Pokémon below the rank of Elite King, inflicting immense damage to the two Elite King Pokémon. While the two Elite King level Haunters remained unconscious, their condition was severely compromised, preventing them from continuing the fight. Gardevoir's telekinetic attacks pinned the remaining Team Rocket members to their spot. In an instant, the entire situation shifted dramatically. Bixius, watching the scene unfold, flew into a rage, cursing Lu Feng fiercely. "Damn you little brat. Just wait and see." He then tossed a dark ball, releasing the looted Bangira and giving the order to fight. Seizing the opportunity, he fled on his motorcycle. Lu Feng, watching the fleeing Bixius with a look of disdain, couldn't help but sigh. It's true that nature can't be changed. He'd abandoned his own Pokémon to escape. Lu Feng thought for a moment and sent Jengar chasing Bixius, warning him to be careful of the dark ball. At that moment, Bangira, with a dazed look in his eyes, under the influence of the dark ball, used Earthquake towards Lu Feng's position. With the earthquake, the ground around the Lake of Life began to shake violently, sending clouds of dust and smoke billowing up, obscuring all vision. Swampert and Gardevoir, affected by the earthquake, looked slightly unnatural, as if they had taken considerable damage. Lu Feng frowned slightly as he took in the scene before him. He was about to use his wave power to locate Bangira. But before he could act, the dust-filled field gradually revealed itself under a strong gust of cold wind. As Lu Feng watched in astonishment, a powerful water attack struck Bangira directly. After enduring the attack, Bangira's dazed face revealed an expression of extreme pain. Instantly losing the ability to fight, he fell heavily to the ground, causing the ground, which had only recently calmed, to tremble violently again. Lu Feng turned his gaze towards the Lake of Life, looked at the elegant Suicune, and nodded slightly. He knew clearly that the cold wind and the water attack that had defeated Bangira must have been Suicune's work. Soon after, Jengar returned to Lu Feng, carrying the unconscious Bixius, and handed him over to him. Looking at the numerous Team Rocket members before him, Lu Feng had Jengar hypnotize them. He then gathered the ropes left behind by the fleeing trainers and tied up all the Team Rocket members. Afterward, Lu Feng called Miss Jincer, instructing her to send someone to Celebi's forest to retrieve the captured Team Rocket. Then, Lu Feng slowly walked towards Suicune's location and addressed him. "Suicune, please restore this Lake of Life to its original state." Suicune, upon hearing Lu Feng's words, glanced at the Lake of Life behind him and activated his power to purify the polluted water. Under Suicune's purification, the lake returned to its original state, brimming with vibrant life energy. Celebi, looking at the Lake of Life before him, gradually regained his spirit, and expressed his sincere gratitude to Lu Feng and Suicune. Looking at the happily dancing Celebi, Lu Feng took a deep breath and pleaded with Suicune, "Suicune, please start the relevant test." Chapter 155, Suicune, it's you indeed. After hearing Lu Feng's words, Suicune stared directly at Lu Feng with his ruby-like pupils. He looked around at the surroundings, looked at Celebi in the sky, and was silent for a while. Not long after, an extremely ethereal voice was heard, making it difficult to distinguish the specific gender. "Helping Celebi who is being hunted is as sincere as the colors of a rainbow. Although your thoughts are flawed, it does not affect the purity of your heart. Trialist, you have passed my test." After hearing Suicune's words, Lu Feng's face showed an extremely surprised expression. He glanced at Suicune with some suspicion, his heart full of criticism. He had discovered that the three sacred beasts who came to test him quite liked this style. Not only Suicune, but also Entei, whom he met last time, was the same. I wonder if the next time he meets Raikou, will he be the same as Entei and Suicune? As if sensing Lu Feng's change of mood, Suicune lowered his head, staring directly at him. He spoke in a low voice, "Trialist, you seem to be thinking of something impolite." Upon hearing Suicune's voice, Lu Feng's expression suddenly changed. An expression of profound embarrassment took hold, transforming into something like a. After a moment's silence, Lu Feng slowly raised his head, a sly look in his eyes. He addressed Suicune leisurely, "Suicune, can you help me train my Pokémon?" He gestured towards Swampert and Gardevoir, his face filled with anticipation. Suicune was stunned by Lu Feng's words, his expression becoming somewhat dazed. He had never expected Lu Feng to actually ask such a request. Lu Feng looked at the troubled Suicune and quickly said, "Last time, after completing the test, Entei gifted my Charizard a ball of fire. I've thought about it. You're both 3 sacred beasts. We can't favor one over the other, can we?" Suicune stared at Lu Feng for a long moment before slowly saying, "As expected of you. You're already trying to take advantage of me before you even become the Rainbow Hero." Finally, Suicune couldn't resist Lu Feng's audacity and reluctantly agreed to his request. With Suicune's help, Swampert gained greater control over its water energy, significantly increasing the power of many of its water-based moves. Gardevoir also learned the Life Drops moves, and thanks to Suicune's guidance, these Life Drops moves were imbued with a faint aura of purification. If Gardevoir could continue to improve its understanding of the purifying aura, perhaps it could transform these Life Drops directly into purifying drops. As Lu Feng watched Gardevoir and Swampert, both reaping the rewards of Suicune's guidance, he couldn't help but turn his gaze to Celebi, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. Celebi, watching Lu Feng's constant scrutiny, a puzzled expression crossed his face, somewhat bewildered. Lu Feng rubbed his hands, tossed Articuno's Pokeball, and pointed at Celebi, saying, "Celebi, we're so close now. Can you explain the power of time to my Articuno, Celebi?" It had never occurred to it that Lu Feng was not only going to flee Suicune, but also itself. It was completely stunned. After a long pause, looking at Lu Feng, who was filled with anticipation, and remembering his help this time, it couldn't help but sigh. Celebi, after a moment of contemplation, whispered to Lu Feng. After hearing Celebi's explanation, Lu Feng showed no surprise. He calmly said to Celebi, "Just go ahead and teach. Even if you can't learn, it's good to understand." Seeing Lu Feng's words, Celebi slowly nodded, pulled Articuno nearby, and slowly explained the information about the power of time. Although Articuno was a little confused by Celebi's words, he still listened patiently. After all, he had not forgotten Lu Feng's grand blueprint. As time passed, 3 days flew by. After Suicune finished instructing Swampert and Gardevoir, he rode on the howling north wind, his figure hidden in the white mist, and disappeared directly in front of Lu Feng. Before leaving, Lu Feng specially stuffed a handful of energy cubes into it, which made its eyes show surprise. Looking at the surprised Suicune, Lu Feng smiled at it. How could Lu Feng, who is well versed in the principles of PY, miss such an opportunity to improve his favorability? Shortly after Suicune's departure, Celebi arrived with Articuno before Lu Feng. Seeing Celebi's helpless expression and Articuno's bewildered face, Lu Feng suddenly understood. He offered no words, simply offering Articuno a soothing reassurance. He then took out a large number of grass-type energy cubes and handed them directly to Celebi. Celebi sniffed the familiar scent, a look of happiness on his face. After a brief farewell, he flew towards the shrine near the Lake of Life, piercing through the ripples of time and disappearing from Lu Feng's sight. Gazing at the celeb-like forest, now peaceful, Lu Feng began to ponder his next plan. He drew his rainbow feather from his embrace and, using the power of the wave guide, located the remaining Raikou. To Lu Feng's surprise, the Raikou seemed somewhat erratic, leaving him feeling uneasy. "I didn't expect that in the real world. Raikou also loves to run all over the map, just like in the game." A helpless expression crossed his face, and he sighed with a complex mixture of emotions. While trying to think of a way to find Raikou, Lu Feng suddenly remembered a Pokémon fortune teller in Azure City. She could tell people where they would encounter their destined Pokémon. At this thought, his eyes lit up, and a decision suddenly came to him. He gathered his Pokémon and left Celebi Forest, heading back towards Shallot City. After 2 hours, Lu Feng, riding Charizard, arrived at Shallot City again. He pulled out his map, compared the location of Azure City, and then, riding Charizard, flew across the vast ocean along Route 40. As they passed the Whirlpool Islands, Lu Feng heard the clear melody of the sea bell in his backpack. After a moment of silent reflection, he landed Charizard on the Whirlpool Islands. He wondered if he could encounter the Lugia mother and son in the Whirlpool Islands and put his PY skills to the test. Lu Feng held the ocean bell in his hand, its gentle tinkling echoing throughout the Whirlpool Islands, a distant call to the calm surface of the sea. Somewhere beneath the Whirlpool Islands, a massive creature, upon hearing the bell, suddenly opened its eyes and gazed towards where Lu Feng stood, a thoughtful expression on its face. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 156, Lugia and his son in the Whirlpool Islands. Johto Region, Whirlpool Islands. Lu Feng, holding a sea bell, walked across the islands, braving the gentle sea breeze. The cool breeze rustled the bell's melodious melody, bringing a sense of calm and tranquility. Lu Feng surveyed his surroundings, gazing at the whirlpools dotting the islands, his heart filled with anticipation. But as he recalled the records of the Whirlpool Islands, he couldn't help but sigh with regret. The Whirlpool Islands were once a vast island, but a fierce war erupted between two nations over a territorial dispute, leaving the island's guardian, Lugia, disappointed. One rainy night, a terrifying flash of lightning ripped through the sky, splitting the vast, unbroken island into four unequally sized landmasses, forming the Whirlpool Islands of today. Since then, Lugia, like Ho, has vanished at the bottom of the waterfall. Lu Feng gazed at the surrounding islands, patiently waiting for Lugia to appear. But as time ticked by, the sea became calm, without a single ripple. A look of disappointment crossed his eyes, and he shook his head with regret, saying, "Looks like I won't be seeing Lugia." Just as Lu Feng was about to leave for Azure City, the tranquil sea suddenly shifted dramatically. The waves surged, the weather abruptly changing, and raging waves crashed against the narrow coastline, like a roaring outburst of nature. A waterspout, piercing the heavens and earth, quietly rose from the seabed and poured back into the clouds, catching Lu Feng's eye. He could clearly sense a powerful aura hidden within the waterspout, gazing towards him with a certain scrutiny. More precisely, it was looking at the sea bell in his hand. Gazing at the sea bell in Lu Feng's hand, the figure hidden within the waterspout wore a complex expression, as if recalling memories of a bygone era. After a long moment, the waterspout that pierced the sky and earth slowly vanished. A large bird-like Pokémon, one with a masked eye, a light blue belly, a blue bulge on its back, and all white, appeared before Lu Feng. "Lugia, the god of the sea," Lu Feng said, a dazed expression, looking up at the Pokémon before him. He hadn't expected Lugia to actually appear before him just as he was about to leave. Hearing Lu Feng's voice, Lugia flapped its massive white wings, stirring a fierce sea breeze, and let out a long cry. Lugia observed Lu Feng closely, and after sensing the mottled aura emanating from him, a flicker of curiosity and emotion crossed his eyes. Lugia sensed the auras of numerous legendary Pokémon in this human, including common legendaries like the three sacred beasts, as well as high-ranking legendaries like Ho and Kyogre. This filled Lugia with astonishment. But upon seeing Machado in Lu Feng's shadow, Lugia suddenly understood. "Hero of the Phoenix King, why did you summon me?" With the sound of the sea bell, at that moment, a disembodied voice echoed, carried by the gentle sea breeze, reaching Lu Feng's ears. Hearing Lugia's question, Lu Feng raised his head, looked directly at the Lugia before him, and spoke calmly. "I have been entrusted by the survivors of Yuzu City to search for you and convey their wishes to you." "Yuzu City?" Lugia said in a low voice, a hint of reminiscence in his dark eyes. "I understand. If all is well, you may depart." Lu Feng was silent for a long moment, rubbing his hands. He looked at Lugia sheepishly, then made his own request. "Lugia, could you offer me some guidance on my Gardevoir?" As Lu Feng finished speaking, a look of astonishment crossed Lugia's face, a blank expression, degree. If Lugia hadn't been mindful of his appearance, he would have been about to unleash a curse on Lu Feng. "We're not that familiar, are we?" Hidden in Lu Feng's shadow, Machado watched the scene unfold, a look of helplessness in his orange-red eyes, the corners of his mouth twitching slightly. He didn't even know whether Lord Ho had chosen Lu Feng for the test, right or wrong. After a long silence, Lugia gave Lu Feng a deep look. Just as he was about to say something, he sensed the lingering aura of the Lugia clan, and his expression darkened. He could sense that this Lugia's aura was extremely sinister, unlike anything a normal Lugia could possess. With this thought, he fixed his gaze on Lu Feng and said coldly, "Hero of the Ho, why do you possess the aura of my clan, and such an extremely sinister one at that?" Lu Feng observed the coldness in Lugia's eyes, then reflected on what he had just said, his face filled with confusion. After a brief moment of recollection, Lu Feng suddenly remembered something and quickly dug out the silver feather from his backpack. Lu Feng held a dark Lugia's feather in his right hand and slowly placed it before Lugia's eyes. Lugia looked down at the silver feather in Lu Feng's hand, sensing a completely different aura from Lugia's. Its previously calm expression faltered. It anxiously asked Lu Feng, "Where did you get this feather?" Lu Feng's question brought a bitter expression to his face, and he could only vaguely explain that it was an accidental find. After hearing Lu Feng's answer, Lu Jia gave him a deep look, then fell silent, sensing he wasn't lying. Lu Jia could only instruct Lu Feng to keep the dark Lu Jia's silver feather safe. Suddenly, a small head appeared above the surface of the sea, gazing at Lu Feng and Lu Jia on the island. It purred, instantly attracting Lu Feng's attention. This turned out to be a smaller Lu Jia, about 1.75 meters tall, roughly the same height as Lu Feng. He glanced at the little Lu Jia, then looked at the Lu Jia in front of him, and suddenly understood something. This might be the Lu Jia mother and child hidden in the Whirlpool Islands. Looking at the somewhat confused little Lu Jia, Lu Feng took out some energy cubes from his backpack and handed them to the little Lu Jia in front of him. The little Lu Jia looked at the brightly colored and amazingly fragrant energy cubes in front of him, and came up with some surprise, accepting Lu Feng's feeding. The little Lu Jia, who had been feeding on seaweed all year round, had never eaten something as delicious as an energy cube. An intoxicated expression appeared on his face, and he was full of affection towards Lu Feng. The pensive Lu Jia came to his senses, looking at the scene in front of him, his eyes full of helplessness. Chapter 157, The Pokémon Fortune Teller of Azure City. Lu Jia sighed, then looked at Lu Feng with a complicated expression and said, "Hero of the Hoyo. Release your Pokémon?" Hearing Lu Jia's agreement, Lu Feng's eyes lit up, and he glanced at little Lu Jia with gratitude. He knew full well that Lu Jia's willingness to agree was due to Lu Jia's kindness. Lu Feng then released his own Gardevoir and gave it some earnest instructions. Gardevoir nodded at Lu Feng and slowly walked towards Lu Jia. Lu Jia took in the Gardevoir before him, and as he sensed its potential, a glimmer of light gradually shone in his calm eyes. Lu Jia then began to offer guidance to Gardevoir, while Lu Feng, using energy blocks, frantically boosted little Lu Jia's favorability. Although he knew that even if he maxed out Lu Jia's favorability, Lu Jia would definitely not let him take it away. At least he'd left a good impression. Perhaps he could leverage this connection to gain the Lu Jia clan's help later when trying to find someone. Time passed slowly, and in the blink of an eye, 2 days had passed. During these 2 days, with Lu Jia's guidance, Gardevoir successfully mastered the Celestial Aura, becoming Lu Feng's third Celestial Pokémon. Thanks to its accumulated experience, its level reached level 63. Furthermore, with Lu Jia's help, Gardevoir gained greater proficiency in controlling Psychic-type energy, greatly increasing the power of its moves. Looking at Gardevoir's fruitful harvest, Lu Feng's face lit up with satisfaction. Although he still wanted to stay on Okinawa Island, with only 3 weeks left until the Quartz Conference, Lu Feng reluctantly bid farewell to Lu Jia and her son. Before leaving, Lu Feng left a large number of energy cubes as a token of his gratitude for Lu Jia's help. He also subtly warned them to keep an eye out for Team Rocket. After all, in the original anime, Team Rocket had spotted their presence and captured them. After all, Lu Feng rode Charizard and sped along Waterway 41, heading towards Azure City. The sun was setting, its rays lingering in the sky. With a last glimmer of sunlight scattering across the sky, Lu Feng and Charizard finally arrived in Azure City. Azure City, a border city on the western edge of the Johto region, has a completely different topography than other cities. Located on a small island far from the mainland, it faces the surging waves and is known as the turbulent coastal city. Looking at the darkening sky and the faint glow of the sea lanterns, Lu Feng pondered for a moment and decided to spend the night at the Pokémon Center before searching for the city's hidden Pokémon fortune teller the next day. After making his decision, Lu Feng quickly walked towards the Pokémon Center. The next morning, the sun was shining brightly. After breakfast, Lu Feng went straight to the Pokémon Center's information desk. He looked at Miss Joy and asked softly, "Miss Joy, I heard there's a Pokémon fortune teller in Azure City. Do you know her exact location?" Miss Joy thought for a moment before softly replying, "There is indeed such a fortune teller. Her residence is in the northernmost part of Azure City. That lonely house is her home. You can look for her there." Miss Joy frowned, paused, and continued, "But be prepared, she has a bit of a strange temper." "Thank you, Miss Joy." Lu Feng, having received the information he sought, thanked Miss Joy and walked towards the location she had pointed out. Following Miss Joy's directions, Lu Feng gradually arrived at the northernmost part of Azure City. A look of surprise crossed his face as he gazed at the somewhat isolated house. The area surrounding this somewhat old house wasn't very popular, which puzzled Lu Feng the most. After all, Being able to mentor trainers and encounter Pokémon with a connection to them should be something to be admired. But the reality was quite different from what he had imagined. Then, the door of the old house slowly opened, and a trainer emerged, cursing as he walked, his expression filled with agitation. Bah! What the hell? How could I possibly be connected to a weak Pokémon like Magikarp? Hearing the trainer's words and seeing his furious expression, Feng suddenly understood. Looking at the old house before him, his heart sank, and a strained expression crossed his face. After a brief moment of reflection, Feng pushed open the door of the old house and stepped inside. The furnishings within were extremely simple, mostly related to divination. A white-haired, elderly woman sat at the table, her face serene. As if hearing the door open, she slowly raised her head, glanced at Feng, and said in a hoarse voice, "Sir, what do you wish to inquire about?" Feng hesitated, then said in a low voice, "I wish to inquire about the next Pokémon I encounter." "Where will it appear?" The woman motioned for Feng to sit across from her, had him place his hands over the crystal ball, and began the divination. She closed her eyes and muttered something to the crystal ball, as if praying. Through the power of the wave guide, Feng could sense a sudden surge of energy emanating from the old woman. Seeing this, a thoughtful expression crossed his face. "Is this a psychic's ability to predict the future?" he muttered to himself, a hint of curiosity in his eyes. After a long pause, the old woman slowly opened her eyes, looked directly at Feng, and said in a trembling voice, "The Pokémon destined for you will appear in a lake east of the oldest city. It's a Magikarp." Feng's face darkened as he stared at the old woman in silence. At that moment, he could somewhat relate to the trainer's feelings. Chapter 158 The Strangeness of the Angry Lake. Feng was silent for a long moment, staring intently at the old woman before him, a strange expression on his face. As if sensing the meaning in Feng's gaze, the old woman paused for a moment before continuing, "Amidst the roaring thunderclouds and storms, you will eventually meet. This divination crystal also gave me instructions. In the forest near this lake, you will encounter what you seek." After hearing the old woman's next words, Feng's initially nonchalant expression gradually became serious. He gave the old woman a deep look, thanked her, paid the consultation fee, and left the northern room, heading towards a nearby restaurant. Feng silently reflected on the old woman's words, a thoughtful expression on his face. If he was right, the roaring thunderclouds and storms must be referring to the thunder god. Rumors say that the thunder god descends with lightning, and the dark purple, thundercloud-like cloak and long fur on his back can trigger thunderstorms from heaven and earth. The oldest city should be Yuanzhou City, and as for the lake to its east, while tasting the food from Xianlan City, Feng took out a map of the Johto region and slowly compared it with the other two. When he saw the markings on the map, a strange look appeared in his eyes. The lake marked on the map was the famous Angry Lake in the Johto region. Feng looked at the map in front of him, and after thinking for a while, he immediately made a decision. After finishing his meal, Feng walked out of the restaurant and headed towards the nearby esoteric pharmacy. "Sir, what kind of medicine would you like to buy?" The clerk in the esoteric pharmacy raised his head and looked at Feng, who slowly walked into the store, with his signature smile on his face. Feng surveyed the medicines before him for a moment. Spotting the vitality shards and panacea elixir, he pointed to the clerk, thought for a moment, and said, "Please pick out 15 of each." The clerk's face lit up with a hint of joy, and he quickly said to Feng, "Sir, please wait a moment. I'll pack them for you." Feng nodded slightly, waiting idly. He purchased the vitality shards and panacea elixir primarily for his upcoming trip. Somehow, Feng had a premonition that this search for the thunder god wouldn't be peaceful. After all, the location of the Wrath Lake wasn't too far from Kaji Town. From his memories, Feng was well aware that Kaji Town housed Team Rocket's base. If the thunder god appeared near the Wrath Lake, it would undoubtedly attract Team Rocket. Therefore, the ensuing battles would undoubtedly be numerous. After purchasing the necessary medicine, Feng left the secret pharmacy and arrived at the shore of Azure City. He cast his Pokeball and sent out Charizard. He pointed to a location on the map and said to Charizard, "Charizard, we're heading to this location next." "Please." Charizard nodded at Feng, gave a deep roar, and flew directly towards Kaji Town, carrying Feng. Time flew by like an arrow. In a blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. After 3 days of travel, Feng finally arrived at Kaji Town. Kaji Town, a small town in the northernmost part of the Johto region, is extremely peaceful. Because of its ancient cultural heritage, it is also known as the hometown of ninjas. Feng casually scanned the town before him, silently taking out his rainbow feather and began to sense the approximate location of the thunder god. Through the feedback of the wave guide, Feng could clearly sense an extremely violent aura approaching his location at an astonishing speed. Feng knew this was the thunder god he was seeking. Based on its speed, it would be near Lake of Fury in 2 days. He only needed to wait 2 days before encountering it. With this thought, Feng breathed a sigh of relief and silently walked towards the Pokémon Center. Meanwhile, in a base beneath Kaji Town, the members of Team Rocket were conducting a special experiment. They operated a massive radio wave generator, emitting a unique electromagnetic wave toward the nearby Lake of Fury. Under the influence of this wave, the surrounding ecosystem began to change. Sensing this unique wave, the Magikarp in Lake of Fury began to twitch nervously, their eyes gradually glowing red, as if entering a state of rage. As the Magikarp's rage accumulated, they began to trigger the light of evolution. Suddenly, the previously calm Lake of Fury was ablaze with a dazzling light. Soon after, as the light of evolution faded, the entire Lake of Rage roared with fury. Fierce Gyarados surfaced, unleashing a variety of skills and attacks, seemingly unleashing their fury as they launched a fierce attack in all directions. Among them, one figure stood out the most. Its skin color was surprisingly different from the surrounding Gyarados. Instead of the usual sky blue color of the Gyarados, it was a vibrant crimson. The Team Rocket personnel, hidden in the underground base of Kaji Town, were filled with excitement upon witnessing this scene. Dr. Dongbo, our experiment was successful. With the help of this radio generator, we can force the evolution of Pokémon, allowing them to unleash even greater power when angry. A Team Rocket researcher beamed at the scene before them. Huh? How many times have I told you it's Nanbo? Nanbo, the middle-aged man with red Mediterranean hair in front of him, upon hearing the researcher's words, became annoyed and repeatedly corrected them. Professor Sip, the Team Rocket members down there have reported the sighting of the legendary Pokémon Raikou, and it seems to be heading towards us. At this moment, a small Team Rocket leader approached Professor Nanpo and shared the latest news. I repeat, my name is Nanpo, not Sip or Tabo. Professor Nanpo angrily addressed the group after hearing his name called incorrectly again. After calming down, Professor Nanpo pondered for a moment, then addressed the surrounding Team Rocket members. Ordinary Pokémon can gain a significant boost in strength when angry, but what about legendary Pokémon? Get ready. Capture Raikou. I want to experiment with legendary Pokémon? Yes, Professor. Upon hearing Professor Nanpo's command, the numerous Team Rocket members quickly responded. Suddenly, the entire area around Kaji Town felt as if a storm was brewing. Chapter 159 Wild Red Gyarados. The next day, dawn broke through the darkness, and the sun rose high. After a quick breakfast, Feng walked out of the Kaji Town Pokémon Center. Before he could even think about his plans for the next 2 days, he heard the town announcement, Kaji Town announcement, attention, all citizens. Due to unknown reasons, wild Pokémon near the Angry Lake have rioted. For your safety, please stay away from the Angry Lake for the time being. Feng turned and looked in the direction of the Angry Lake, a flicker of surprise on his face. He saw countless trainers in the town, seemingly receiving some kind of news, running enthusiastically towards the Angry Lake. Even Miss Junsha of Kaji Town, with numerous police officers, had arrived near Route 43 and set up checkpoints, but they were unable to stop the trainers' movements. What's going on? Feng frowned, perplexed at the scene before him. After pondering for a moment, Feng approached Miss Junsha. After demonstrating his prowess, he asked, somewhat puzzled, Miss Junsha, what's going on? Why are all these trainers behaving so strangely? Miss Junsha, upon hearing Feng's words, a wry smile crossed her pretty face, and she explained with some resignation, for unknown reasons, a large number of Gyarados have appeared in the Angry Lake north of Kaji Town, posing a serious safety hazard to the surrounding roads. These trainers are so frantic, hoping to capture a powerful Gyarados in the Angry Lake, perhaps even the most powerful red one. After hearing Miss Junsha's words, Feng's eyes flickered with a strange hue, and he became lost in thought. If he was right, this was probably the product of some Team Rocket experiment. Furthermore, the red Gyarados in the Angry Lake wasn't a true colored Pokémon, but rather a Magikarp transformed into something extremely angry due to the influence of special electromagnetic waves. According to the original course of history, this red Gyarados would have fallen into the hands of Yolongdu, becoming his ultimate trump card. Somehow, Lu Feng suddenly remembered what the fortune teller in Azure City had once told him. You will encounter a Magikarp in the lake east of the ancient city. At this thought, Lu Feng's breathing quickened. He knew clearly that, judging by the current situation, the Magikarp the fortune teller had most likely evolved into a Gyarados under the influence of that special radio wave. After a brief moment of contemplation, Lu Feng's decision suddenly came to him. He glanced in the direction of Lake Fury and, without looking back, walked towards it with his EV. Miss Junsha watched him leave, her lips pursed slightly, as if she were about to say something, but then, remembering Lu Feng's strength, she paused and sighed helplessly. Lu Feng continued along Route 43 for over 10 minutes before finally reaching the shores of Lake Fury. By then, the area surrounding Lake Fury was already crowded with trainers. Among the crowd were trainers native to the Pokémon world and players from Blue Planet. They gazed at the wrathful lake, their eyes blazing with excitement. What's going on? Didn't they say it was full of Gyarados? Why aren't there any Gyarados to be seen? A highly skilled trainer frowned slightly at the tranquil lake. That's right. Did they say there were red Gyarados? A trainer from Blue Planet asked angrily, gazing at the calm surface. Why can't I see any? Lu Feng listened to the grumblings and complaints and, using his wave power to probe, discovered a large number of Gyarados lurking in the center of the lake. Their aura was extremely violent, as if under some influence. At that moment, the Gyarados were dozing underwater. After an unknown amount of time, a sharp, piercing sound suddenly rang out. The Pokémon trainers wandering around, listening to the cacophony of sonic waves, felt a surge of intense distress and discomfort. What's going on? Why am I feeling so oppressed? Their faces paled, and they glanced around in confusion. However, because the sonic generator was underwater, the trainers hadn't spotted the crucial element that had led to this incident. A Gyarados, previously entrenched at the lake's bottom, suddenly opened its eyes, opened its maw, and roared. It charged toward the surface, attacking anxiously. Instantly, all the Pokémon trainers near the wrathful lake were affected. Once they realized what was happening, the trainers stared at the scene before them, their faces filled with excitement. They commanded the Pokémon to counterattack the Gyarados within the wrathful lake. Under the combined attack, some of the weaker Gyarados were slain. This also attracted the attention of the Gyarados. With furious glares, they charged at the numerous trainers on the shore, their aura radiating an intense fury. Watching their fallen companions, the Gyarados unleashed their destructive beams, blasting them towards the trainers. The dazzling, intense light suddenly illuminated the dim lake of rage, carrying a terrifying aura as it slammed directly into the Pokémon on the shore. Once all calmed down, the Pokémon on the shore were rendered incapable of combat by this terrifying attack. The trainers stared at their Pokémon in disbelief, their eyes filled with bewilderment, frozen in place. At that moment, the wave surged violently in the center of Lake of Rage. A crimson figure suddenly leaped from the water, roaring with immense fury towards the sky. It was the sought-after red Gyarados. The red Gyarados glanced at the crowd on the shore, its eyes flashing with hatred. It unleashed its surf move, sending a massive wave crashing down towards the lake's edge. Seeing this, Lu Feng quickly threw his Charizard Pokéball, allowing it to carry him high into the air, dodging the wave. Some trainers, seeing the situation was dire, quickly followed Lu Feng's lead and used flying Pokémon to evade, but many, lacking flying Pokémon, had to rely on their legs to escape. He looked at the people struggling on the ground, a look of relief on his face, and couldn't help but sigh. This is truly terrifying. After a moment's reflection, Lu Feng cast a detect skill on the red Gyarados. Upon seeing its information, he grew increasingly excited. Chapter 160 Pokémon Get Days. Name, Red Gyarados. Gender, male. Sign, attributes, water plus flying. Ability, overconfidence. After defeating an opponent, confidence increases, and attack power is enhanced. Classification, vicious Pokémon. Level 59. Quality, King. Originally a Quasi-King, mutated by a special electromagnetic wave. Skills, Bite, Tornado, Tidal Wave, Waterfall, Dragon Dance, Saltwater, Freeze Fang, 100,000 volts, Destruction Ray, Rage, Lu Feng looked at the information provided by the system and was immediately tempted. However, the red Gyarados' location in the lake was not a suitable place for a battle. Lu Feng looked around and found that most of the trainers had been scared away by the red Gyarados' surf move. Only a few trainers, who considered themselves to be strong, still held on. He pondered for a moment and did not rush into action. Instead, he watched with interest as the trainers who remained nearby took action. Numerous trainers dispatched their Pokémon to attack the red Gyarados. However, due to insufficient strength or limited space, they were unable to defeat the red Gyarados and reluctantly left the angry lake. Seeing that most trainers had already left, Lu Feng tossed out his Pokéball and released Articuno. Gazing at Articuno, its icy blue wings fluttering and specks of frost scattering around it, Lu Feng took a deep breath and shouted, "Articuno, prepare for battle." Chirp! Articuno flapped its wings, its colorful tail fluttering in the wind. It fixed its gaze directly on the red Gyarados in the angry lake and let out a melodious cry. The red Gyarados looked up at Articuno in the sky, its crimson eyes filled with fury, and roared at him. Articuno, Tailwind. Receiving Lu Feng's command, Articuno unleashed its Tailwind attack, sending a fierce gale sweeping across the entirety of Angry Lake, sweeping towards the red Gyarados. With a boost from Tailwind, Articuno's own speed began to increase. The red Gyarados gazed at Articuno in the sky, leaped high from the water, and, opening its maw, bit down fiercely. Bite! Lu Feng, his gaze calm as the red Gyarados lunged towards Articuno, commanded calmly, "Articuno, fly behind the red Gyarados and use freeze dry." Chew! Articuno let out a long, understanding cry, leveraging its speed to dodge the red Gyarados' attack, then moved behind it and unleashed its freeze dry attack. Icy air emanated from Articuno, rapidly shooting towards the red Gyarados, landing heavily on it. Instantly, the moisture on the red Gyarados' surface rapidly solidified, gradually transforming into streaks of frost, inflicting immense damage and triggering the frozen effect. Feeling the chill, the red Gyarados' face grimaced in pain, its once crimson eyes gradually dimming. Unable to fly, the red Gyarados, after briefly pausing in midair, plummeted towards the Lake of Fury, sending a heavy splash across the surface. Although Gyarados is a flying-type Pokémon, its life under the sea has long since diminished its ability to fly. In the old Gold and Silver versions, Gyarados could learn fly, but later revisions removed this ability. With the exception of a few Gyarados who had deliberately trained, most Gyarados had lost the ability to fly. Articuno watched the red Gyarados fall into the lake, his eyes fixed on the surface, searching for its presence. Lu Feng also used the power of the wave to search for the red Gyarados' wave aura. After some sensing, he discovered that the red Gyarados had swum beneath Articuno and was about to leap out of the water to launch a new attack at Articuno in the sky. Seeing this, Lu Feng suddenly looked up and said to Articuno, "Articuno, dodge to the right." Articuno, though somewhat confused, followed his command and dodged to the right. Suddenly, the red Gyarados in the angry lake leaped high out of the water and, with astonishing momentum, performed a waterfall climb move towards Articuno's original position. Thanks to Lu Feng's preemptive command, Articuno dodged the red Gyarados attack in time, avoiding damage. Lu Feng watched the red Gyarados leap into the air and sneered, "You never learn your lesson, Articuno, keep using freeze dry." Upon hearing this, Articuno fired another freeze dry attack at the red Gyarados, sending it crashing back into the lake. "Articuno, get ready. Use your maximum power, Ice Beam." Lu Feng carefully sensed the red Gyarados' position and turned to Articuno in the sky. "Chirp!" Articuno chirped, nodded at Lu Feng, and began to concentrate on using Ice Beam, constantly awaiting the red Gyarados' appearance. A few minutes later, a powerful beam of light surged from the calm lake, rapidly hurtling towards Articuno. Destructive Beam. Upon seeing the dazzling light before its eyes, Articuno fired an icy blue beam from its mouth, fiercely impacting it. Boom! Two incredibly powerful attacks erupted from the skies above the angry lake. Deafening explosions, accompanied by a powerful gust of wind, rapidly spread toward Articuno and red Gyarados. Involuntarily, Articuno and red Gyarados were flung backwards to either side by the powerful force of the current. Lu Feng sensed red Gyarados' state and discovered it had also triggered its frozen state. He hurried Charizard toward red Gyarados and tossed a dive ball in its direction. The dive ball traced a perfect parabola through the sky, landing squarely on red Gyarados. With a blazing flash of light, red Gyarados vanished from Lu Feng's sight. Watching the dive ball gradually sink to the surface, Feng released Swampert, asking it to dive to the lake's bottom and search for the dive ball. A few minutes later, Swampert, clutching the now calm dive ball, slowly emerged from the water and walked to the lake's edge. Seeing this, Feng couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief and snapped his right fingers. Red Gyarados, get days. Chapter 161 Thunder God, we have been waiting for you for a long time. At this moment, after a fierce battle, the entire angry lake gradually returned to calm. Feng took out his Pokeball, retrieved Articuno from the sky, and then slowly descended Charizard to the lake's edge. Swampert strode over to Feng's side and handed him the scuba ball. Feng held it in his hands, a look of joy on his face as he looked at the calm scuba ball. He let out a long breath and turned his attention back to Angry Lake. After a careful search, he finally found the device Team Rocket had buried in the lake and sent Swampert to destroy the wave generator. Without the influence of the wave generator buried at the bottom of the lake, the radio waves around Angry Lake suddenly disappeared. The wild Pokémon near Angry Lake gradually recovered, the irritability on their faces quietly fading. Feng looked at the restored Angry Lake and, with his Pokémon, walked back towards Kaji Town. Half an hour later, Feng returned to the Pokémon Center in Kaji Town. He handed the submersible ball containing Red Gyarados directly to Miss Joy, asking her to check on the creature. Feng was concerned that the unusual radio waves would significantly affect Red Gyarados' health, fearing it might leave some hidden danger. Fortunately, Miss Joy examined it and assured Feng that Red Gyarados was fine, which put Feng's mind at ease. After retrieving the Pokeball, Feng was about to explore Kaji Town, but before he could even exit the Pokémon Center, the weather around Kaji Town began to change dramatically. Dark clouds drifted in from the sky, shrouding it above. Wisps of electricity arced and flashed with golden lightning. Thunder roared, and raindrops pattered onto the ground. Feng took in the scene before him, gazing off into the distance, his eyes flickering slightly. After a brief moment of reflection, he abandoned his plans to go out and return to his dorm. He turned on the television and caught a weather report. It is reported that thunderstorm clouds near Yuanzhou City are rapidly moving toward Yanmo City and are expected to reach Kaji Town at 3 a.m. tonight. Residents are advised to bring appropriate rain gear when going out. Feng, his head bowed, surveyed the news, saying in a gloomy voice, "Will the thunder god appear near Kaji Town tonight?" Recalling the fortune teller's words, Feng retired to bed after dinner. He knew that if the thunder god appeared within Kaji Town's borders, a major battle would inevitably ensue. Therefore, he needed to recuperate and regain his strength. While Feng rested, the Team Rocket members in Kaji Town quietly left Kaji Town on the dark, rainy night, carrying their equipment and arriving in a valley forest not far from Kaji Town. "Are you sure the thunder god will appear in this location?" a golden-haired Team Rocket leader asked, taking in the pitch-black surroundings. "Don't worry, based on the trajectory of the thunder clouds, as long as we hold our position, we'll definitely encounter the thunder god," a nearby researcher confidently stated, hearing the leader's question. The golden-haired Team Rocket leader nodded, surveying the surrounding equipment, and slowly addressed the nearby Team Rocket members, "Activate the crystal system to track the nearby electric Pokémon. Let's have some appetizers before the thunder god arrives." As he spoke, the surrounding Team Rocket members sprang into action. In the heart of the valley, a machine inlaid with a purple crystal suddenly lit up with a dazzling light. Arcs of electricity arced across the machine. In the silent, rainy night, the luminous glow in the valley cast a deadly spell on the surrounding electric-type Pokémon. Countless electric-type Pokémon, sensing the changes in the valley, awoke from their slumbers and involuntarily flocked to the valley. The golden-haired leader of Team Rocket gazed at the endless stream of wild Pokémon, a faint smile playing on his lips. Controlling a robot, he addressed the surrounding Team Rocket members, "Capture them immediately." "Yes," countless Team Rocket members shouted, sending their own Pokémon to herd the wild electric-type Pokémon into the valley's center and attack them. Seeing the incoming attacks, numerous wild electric-type Pokémon dodged Team Rocket's attacks and began counterattacking with their own electric-type moves. However, to their dismay, their attacks didn't strike Team Rocket, but instead converged on the crystal system in the valley. After absorbing the electric-type attacks of the wild Pokémon, the amethyst within the crystal system glowed red, sending a powerful electrical current towards the numerous wild electric-type Pokémon. Under this intense attack, many wild Pokémon showed painful expressions, as if severely wounded, and collapsed around the crystal system. The golden-haired leader of Team Rocket observed the scene with a look of disdain, then laughed loudly, "Ha ha ha ha, so vulnerable." At this moment, the dark clouds in the sky gradually thickened, and a thunderstorm gradually moved towards the valley. With the arrival of the thunderstorm, a roar like thunder could be heard from outside the valley, mixed with the surging energy of lightning, resounding through the nearby mountains and forests. It seemed as if some ferocious beast was sprinting towards the valley. A moment later, a Pokémon with golden fur, incredibly sturdy limbs, and razor-sharp fangs, resembling a saber-toothed tiger, and a thundercloud-like ape, appeared in the valley. Its eyes gleamed as it observed the events in the valley, its majestic face awash in fury as it roared at the numerous Team Rocket members. The golden-haired leader of Team Rocket, piloting a robot, stared intently at the Pokémon before him and declared, his voice trembling with excitement, "Legendary Pokémon Raikou. We've been waiting for you." Upon hearing the rocket leader's words, Raikou sensed his inner desire and greed, and his eyes grew cold. The battle on the stormy night was about to begin. Chapter 162, Battle in a Thunderstorm Night. On a dark, stormy night, thunder surged and roared. The atmosphere in the valley woods near Kaji Town was utterly solemn. Thunder God glanced at the surrounding Team Rocket, his eyes gleaming coldly, his gaze blazing like lightning. Behind him, a thundercloud-like cloak, symbolizing clouds and cumulonimbus clouds, erupted with dazzling golden lightning. As he roared heavenward, terrifying lightning, condensing from the sky, carried a powerful wave of energy and struck directly towards the valley woods. A shimmering golden light, a silver snake of fire and lightning. The golden-haired leader of Team Rocket sensed this massive wave of energy and felt the intense pressure. Cold sweat dripped from his forehead, and he swallowed hard, his eyes filled with tension. Fortunately, the crystal system they had developed did not disappoint them. As they watched, the crystal system shimmered with purple light, absorbing the devastating thunderbolt and reflecting the absorbed power towards Thunder God's location. Before Thunder God could react, the weapon slammed down hard on him. The powerful energy sent his body flying far away, tumbling for a long time towards the valley entrance. As it continued to roll, the dust washed away by the rain formed into soybean-sized particles, scattering in all directions, creating an utterly devastating mess. "Wow! Thunder God, do you see that? This is the power of human technology." The golden-haired leader of Team Rocket sighed inwardly at the sight before him, the tension in his eyes gradually easing. Hearing the rocket leader's words, Thunder God leaped from the ground, swaying slightly to shake off the dust and dirt. He glanced cautiously at the crystal system and growled in a deep voice. Hearing Thunder God's growl, the golden-haired leader's smile widened. He began to control his robot, extending a steel mechanical arm towards Thunder God's position, attempting to use the alloy claws to restrain Thunder God, who was not far away. Legong glared at the claws reaching for him, his eyes filled with cold fury. He roared to the heavens, a thunderous roar echoing in all directions. Like a thunderclap, it reverberated in everyone's ears, leaving the nearby Team Rocket members temporarily deafened and their heads pounding. Thunder and lightning erupted from his body once again, carrying a destructive aura, and bombarded the robot's position. However, guided by the crystal system, the vast thunderbolt struck Legong again. Severely wounded by his own attack, Legong's face grimaced with pain, his eyes tightly shut. The numerous Team Rocket members, witnessing the scene before them, slowly gathered around Legong. Sensing the approaching Team Rocket members, Legong's eyes, like morning stars, opened again, his aura growing even more ferocious. He cast a deep glance toward the crystal system. At this moment, it had discovered a problem. The amethyst-encrusted machine before it seemed to absorb electrical energy and, through some means, reflect it. At this thought, a cold glint flashed in Legong's eyes, and a dazzling blue light erupted from his body. Divine power. A powerful supernatural power emanated from his body, erupting towards the approaching Team Rocket members. The massive energy wave spread, instantly stirring up a powerful air current, converging into a hurricane, mixed with torrential rain, sweeping towards the surrounding area. The howling hurricane, the icy downpour, the occasional flash of golden lightning, the violent rumble of purple thunder. The surrounding Team Rocket members were forced to stop in their tracks and retreat tremblingly, their faces filled with fear. "Damn it! Why isn't the crystal system working?" The golden-haired Team Rocket leader, upon witnessing the sudden change, flew into a rage, roaring at the nearby researchers. Hearing the leader's furious roar, The researchers' faces darkened, their expressions sullen. They whispered, "The crystal system was designed with electric-type Pokémon in mind." Upon hearing this, the golden-haired Team Rocket leader's face darkened, his eyes brimming with fury, a rage he could barely contain. At that moment, Thunder God, realizing the crystal system wasn't working, stamped his powerful limbs with lightning and sprinted towards the rocket leader with breathtaking speed, like a bolt of lightning. With a long, piercing roar, like thunderclaps, it shook the air, rocked the earth, and caused the entire valley to tremble slightly. As the rocket leader stared in disbelief, Thunder God slammed into the robot he was piloting. The powerful force of his run sent the steel robot slamming into the valley wall, sending up a cloud of dust. The stormy night gradually grew dizzy, filled with thunder and lightning, and the sounds of violent explosions. Kaji Town, Pokémon Center. Lu Feng drowsily opened his eyes at the sound of a loud bang, glancing at his watch. Seeing the time on his watch had already reached 5 o'clock, he suddenly came to his senses. He hurried to the windowsill, opened the closed glass window, and gazed into the pitch-black distance. With the help of wave power, he could clearly sense a fierce battle erupting not far from Kaji Town. Lu Feng's eyes flickered as he gazed towards the location where the battle waves were coming from. He took out the rainbow feather and slowly injected it with wave power. A brilliant rainbow light shone from the rainbow feather, emitting a fiery aura. A streak of colorful light streaked across the dark, rainy night, illuminating the location of the battle. Seeing this, Lu Feng quickly dressed and, along with his Pokémon, rushed towards the battle site. Gazing at the gathering cumulonimbus clouds, Lu Feng knew that Raikau had arrived within the area of Kaji Town. After 20 minutes, Lu Feng finally arrived at the valley where Raikau and Team Rocket were battling, riding his sonic bike through the raging wind and rain. He gazed upon the shattered valley before him, sensing a terrifying surge of energy. He quickly tossed out Gardevoir and Jengar's Pokeballs and quietly crept in. As they advanced, a spectacular scene greeted them. Raikau, radiating a powerful aura and flashing with ferocious thunder, pursued Team Rocket's position, unleashing a powerful barrage of impact. Team Rocket's Pokémon continuously commanded their counterattacks, attempting to slow Raikau's advance while fleeing in panic. Lu Feng, observing the scene before him, couldn't help but smack his lips in amazement, gradually losing himself in the shock of the scene. After regaining consciousness, he carefully surveyed the valley's surroundings. Upon catching sight of the crystal system in its center, a glimpse of understanding dawned on him. Lu Feng turned his gaze to Gardevoir, pointing to the machinery within the valley. He softly said, "Gardevoir, maximum powered magic flash. Target the machinery within the valley, Gardevoir." Gardevoir nodded slightly after hearing Lu Feng's words. A dazzling light emanated from its body, and it unleashed a powerful attack towards the machinery. As the magic flash descended, the machinery within the valley erupted in flames and arcs of light, then suddenly crumbled in a puff of thick black smoke. The sudden change alerted Team Rocket within the valley, as well as the pursuing Thunder God. Gazing at the now destroyed crystal system, the members of Team Rocket's faces darkened, their faces filled with anger as they glared at Lu Feng at the valley's entrance. "Damn brat! How dare you sabotage our operation?" The golden-haired leader of Team Rocket glared at Lu Feng with a fierce expression, his face filled with rage. Lu Feng scoffed at the Team Rocket leader's words and signaled Gardevoir and Jengar with his eyes to attack. Gardevoir and Jengar understood and quickly unleashed their respective abilities, targeting the Team Rocket members in the valley and launching a fierce attack. Raikau, observing the scene before him, glanced at Lu Feng with scrutiny. Then, sensing the aura of rainbow feathers emanating from him, his eyes softened. Then, along with Gardevoir and Jengar, Raikau launched a counterattack against Team Rocket. Unhindered by the constraints of the crystal system, Raikau erupted with intense lightning, unleashing a thundering attack. Harnessing the thunderstorm, a terrifying thunderbolt descended from the sky, striking down heavily on Team Rocket's position, incapacitating the Pokémon in front of them. "Retreat," the golden-haired Team Rocket leader said, his eyes glaring at Lu Feng, his face filled with resignation. "Damn brat! We, Team Rocket, will remember this time." After hearing his words, the rest of Team Rocket hurriedly fled out of the valley. Looking at the fleeing Team Rocket, Lu Feng showed a disdainful expression on his face and shook his head slightly. Then, sensing the movement behind him, Lu Feng slowly turned around and happened to meet the eyes of Lei Guang. With the departure of Team Rocket, the entire valley forest gradually returned to peace. The rumbling thunder in the sky gradually subsided, and the raindrops falling around slowly dissipated. The whole scene seemed to fall into silence, and the atmosphere became a little settled. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 163 Destroy in Team Rocket's Underground Base. After a long moment, the majestic voice of Thunder God suddenly rang out, breaking the silence. Trilist, thank you so much for this time. Feng listened to Thunder God and shook his head. He knew full well that even if he hadn't arrived this time, Team Rocket wouldn't have been able to defeat Thunder God. After all, legendary strength was more than just talk. Even if Thunder God's full potential was limited by the crystal system, his physical prowess alone was no match for the minions Team Rocket sent out. Feng observed the Thunder God before him, lowering his head in thought for a moment before silently addressing him. Thunder God, what is your test? Thunder God, Greek letter Phi, Greek letter Phi. A look of astonishment crossed his face. He hadn't expected Feng to be so impatient, thinking about starting the test he was presiding over right after the battle. Thunder God was silent for a long moment, his gaze casually catching sight of the Pokémon in the valley. Recalling Team Rocket's actions, a furious expression crossed his face. If you can bring the humans who just came here to justice and resolve the worries of these innocent Pokémon, you will pass my test. Feng heard an incredibly commanding voice, which pierced his mind, leaving him stunned and dazed. He looked in the direction of Thunder God's voice, seeing the wounded wild Pokémon in the valley, and nodded firmly. He then approached the wild Pokémon, carefully lifting them up and removing medicine from his backpack to tend to their wounds. Thunder God watched him, a softness flickering in his eyes, his irritable aura gradually subsiding. Half an hour later, Feng had finally finished tending to the wild Pokémon's wounds and silently wiped the sweat from his forehead. After completing all of this, Feng bid farewell to Legong and headed straight back toward Kaji Town. Based on the test Legong had given him, Feng knew clearly that it was to eliminate the Team Rocket base in Kaji Town. Judging from the Team Rocket leader who had just led the operation, the remaining Team Rocket forces in Kaji Town were likely not very strong. After a moment's reflection, Feng suddenly made a decision. 20 minutes later, Feng returned to Kaji Town. Instead of returning to the Pokémon Center, he headed towards the town's shop. Kaji Town was so small that there was no friendship store, only a single, ordinary shop. From his memory, Feng clearly knew that this ordinary shop was actually the entrance to Team Rocket's underground base in Kaji Town. Feng looked up at the shop sign and stepped inside. Sir, what would you like to buy? The strange old man inside the shop asked curiously, a forced smile on his gloomy face as he watched Feng enter. After hearing the strange old man's question, Feng didn't speak directly. Instead, he scanned the shop. The strange old man inside, watching Feng's actions, felt a sinking feeling in his heart, his smile gradually fading. He was about to ask Feng to leave the shop, but before he could, a Jenger appeared before him, hypnotized and falling into coma. Seeing this, Feng praised Jenger with some satisfaction. Well done, Jenger. Hey. Jenger's face lit up with excitement at Feng's praise, and he broke into a broad grin. Undeterred by the strange old man's obstruction, Feng reached the innermost part of the shop. Gazing at the incredibly smooth wall, he dispatched with Swampert. Swampert, hammer. As Feng spoke, Swampert unleashed his hammer attack, striking the wall with a fierce blow. Moments later, the wall cracked, revealing the passageway behind it. Gazing at the somewhat deep passage, Feng, without hesitation, led his Pokémon straight in. After a while, a statue of a cat boss appeared at the end of the passage, surrounded by numerous traps. Using the power of wave guidance, Feng commanded Jenger to destroy the surrounding traps and violently demolish the mechanisms, opening the passage to the next level. Time passed slowly, and Feng, leading Jenger and the others, continued to advance. In a blink of an eye, they reached the third underground level. Team Rocket, hidden in the underground base, had already discovered Feng's presence when he entered the first level. But before they could send anyone to stop him, Feng violently demolished all the mechanisms and reached the third underground level, leaving the rocket leader, who managed the underground base, somewhat helpless. You damned little brat again. You're still haunting me, the golden-haired rocket leader, upon seeing that the intruder was Feng, whom he had just encountered, couldn't help but curse. "Hello again, everyone at Team Rocket." Lu Feng listened to the leader's angry curses, a mocking smile on his face, and whispered to them. "Go, everyone. Send out all your Pokémon and tear this brat to pieces." The golden-haired Team Rocket leader glanced at the surrounding Team Rocket members and spoke in a resounding voice. Upon hearing the leader's words, the surrounding Team Rocket members threw their Pokéballs, sending out numerous Pokémon. Lu Feng glanced at them indifferently, but when he saw that these Pokémon were all elite-level Rattata and Diglett, his interest in the game immediately faded. After a brief moment of thought, Lu Feng sent out his newly captured Red Gyarados. With a flash of blazing red light, the enormous Red Gyarados appeared in the underground base, exuding a powerful, oppressive, and terrifying aura. The Pokémon sent by Team Rocket, sensing the Red Gyarados' aura, panicked and retreated in fear. "Everyone, stop. Use your skills and attacks the Gyarados in front of you," the golden-haired Team Rocket leader said angrily, noticing the movements of the numerous Pokémon. Hearing the leader's words, the various Team Rocket members began commanding their Pokémon to attack the Red Gyarados. Lu Feng, observing the chaotic scene before him, shook his head slightly and said with a hint of disdain, "What a mob, Gyarados, make a scene." The Red Gyarados, already somewhat annoyed by the surrounding noise, revealed a ferocious aura after receiving Lu Feng's command. It swung towards the numerous Pokémon, attacking them indiscriminately and sweeping them against the surrounding walls with its tail. After enduring Gyarados' violent blows, the Team Rocket Pokémon lost their fighting ability and fell to the ground, unconscious. As the Pokémon fell, the Red Gyarados' ability, Overconfidence, took effect, significantly increasing its attack power. "Damn brat. So powerful," the golden-haired leader of Team Rocket said nervously, his expression grave. A moment later, he dispatched his Pokémon, a gym newbie, Coconut Tree, and to Elite Nidoranus, to attack the Red Gyarados. Green leaves flew out from behind Coconut Tree, delicately manipulating them to form a leaf storm that swept toward the Red Gyarados. The two Elite Nidoranus leaped forward, charging toward the Red Gyarados. A purple light emanated from the apex of their heads, tinged with a hint of poisonous energy. Leaf Storm. Poison Attack. X2. The Red Gyarados sensed the incoming attack and, already in a state of disarray from its chaotic display, raged furiously, unleashing a terrifying ray of destruction. Under the gazes of everyone, terrifying destructive beams and leaf storms collided, unleashing a terrifying energy surge and whipping up a fierce wind that rattled everything around them. When calm returned, Lu Feng and the Team Rocket members looked toward the battlefield, only to see Pokémon like Coconut Tree and Nidorino rendered incapable of combat. A Red Gyarados, shrouded in thick smoke, its expression ferocious and its aura terrifying. Many Team Rocket members rubbed their eyes in disbelief, their faces filled with despair. Lu Feng, observing the Team Rocket members, now powerless to fight back, gestured to Jengar beside him. Jengar, with a sinister, eerie smile, gave the Team Rocket members a sinister laugh and cast a hypnotic spell, lulling them into deep sleep. Lu Feng took out the communicator and called Miss Juncha in Kaji Town, asking her to send someone to the location in the store to take away these Team Rocket members who had lost their ability to resist. Then, Lu Feng walked over the bodies of these Team Rocket members and headed towards the laboratory. Now, the entire laboratory in the underground base is empty. It is as if all the scientific researchers have disappeared out of thin air. Lu Feng shook his head slightly, sighed, and turned his attention to the central machine in the laboratory. This machine is the main body of the radio wave generator made by Team Rocket. What Lu Feng destroyed in the Lake of Fury was just a defective product. After thinking for a while, he asked the Red Gyarados to use the destructive beam to directly destroy the machine in front of him. After doing all this, Lu Feng left the underground base with a Pokémon. Chapter 164 Heading to Shine King Mountain. After leaving Team Rocket's underground base, Lu Feng returned to the valley where he had met Lei Gong. Aided by the rainbow feathers, Lu Feng called out to Lei Gong. A moment later, Lei Gong reappeared before Lu Feng. A look of surprise crossed his face, his eyes fixed on Lu Feng. He growled in a deep voice, "Trialist, why have you summoned me?" His voice, like thunder, echoed with authority, leaving Lu Feng slightly distracted. Recovering, Lu Feng spoke in a calm and soothing tone, gazing directly at Lei Gong. He spoke without arrogance or servility. "I have completed the test you gave me." Upon hearing Lu Feng's words, Lei Gong stared at him with a scrutinizing expression, his face filled with astonishment. He had never imagined that, mere hours after parting, Lu Feng had already completed the test he had given him. Lei Gong was silent for a long moment, his gaze gazing towards Lu Feng's shadow, as if verifying the truth of the matter. After receiving confirmation from a shadow, hidden within Lu Feng's shadow, Lei Gong gazed upon Lu Feng with stern eyes, nodded, and said, "Trialist, you have passed my test. Next, Machado will guide you to Shianking Mountain in search of Lord Ho." Lu Feng couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief at Lei Gong's words, his tense body slowly relaxing. Seeing that Lu Feng had completed all the tests, Lei Gong was about to leave the valley of Kaji Town and run towards the next city. But before he could move, Lu Feng stopped him. Then, Lu Feng repeated to Lei Gong what he had said to Enter and Su Kyun. After hearing Lu Feng's words, Lei Gong's expression gradually became dazed, and he looked at Lu Feng with a strange gaze. But it ultimately gave in to Lu Feng's constant nagging and, after leaving behind a thunderstone imbued with some of its power, departed. As it departed, Lu Feng also gifted a number of energy cubes, which instantly brightened the somewhat depressed Thunder God's mood. "Huh? I've finally gotten all the wool from the 3 sacred beasts," Lu Feng sighed as he watched the Thunder God's retreating figure, glancing at the Thunderstone in his hand. Since he currently had no electric-type Pokémon, this Thunderstone would be a treasured possession. Lu Feng carefully placed the Thunderstone in his space backpack. Then, he gazed at the shadow on the ground, silently observing his own reflection for a long moment. As if sensing Lu Feng's gaze, Machado, hidden in the shadows, slowly emerged. Looking at Machado before him, Lu Feng asked, bewildered, "Machado, I've completed the 3 sacred beasts test. How do I get to Mount Azure?" Machado was silent for a moment, its orange-red eyes filled with complexity. It hadn't expected Lu Feng, with his somewhat unruly personality, to have passed the 3 sacred beasts test so quickly. After a deep sigh, Machado looked up at Lu Feng and said slowly, "Mount Azure is located in the Yunying Mountains of the Kanto region. If you want to reach it, you'll need to return to the Kanto region. If you're in the Johto region and have nothing else to do, you can set off from Mount Azure now." Lu Feng nodded, his expression expressionless, no change. After discussing this with Machado, Lu Feng had the idea of returning to the Kanto region in mind. He took out his sonic bike and headed straight along Route 44, arriving near Route 45. With the help of Charizard, he arrived at Yanmo City, the last of the Johto region's main avenues. Yanmo City is located in the northeastern corner of the Johto region. Surrounded by mountains and forests, it's known as the Silent Mountain City, because of the presence of a dragon's lair. Most trainers from Yanmo City specialize in dragon-type Pokémon. Upon arriving in Yanmo City, Lu Feng didn't stay long. He went straight to the airport and booked a flight back to Kanto. Although Lu Feng had longed to explore Yanmo City, time constraints prevented him from doing so. He suppressed his curiosity and quietly waited for check-in. 2 hours later, Lu Feng boarded a flight back to Kanto, heading towards Viridian City in the Kanto region. After a 6-hour flight, the plane finally landed at Viridian Airport. Upon returning to Kanto, Lu Feng didn't rush to search for Shianking Mountain. Instead, he visited the Pokémon Center. He spent a day in Viridian City, calming down. The next day, the sun rose, and the morning light was dim. Lu Feng left the Pokémon Center and retrieved a map of the Kanto region, searching for the location of the Yunying Mountains. After a moment's careful search, Lu Feng finally located the Yunying Mountains. The Yunying Mountains, roughly north of the Shanghu Lighthouse and not far east of Cerulean City, consist of numerous steep peaks, one of which is Shianking Mountain. After locating the Yunying Mountains, Lu Feng tossed his Charizard Pokéball and rode it towards Cerulean City. As Lu Feng arrived in Cerulean City, not far from the Yunying Mountains, the rainbow feather in his arms grew incredibly hot, emitting a fiery aura and shimmering with a rainbow-colored light. Sensing the rainbow feather's transformation, Lu Feng grasped it tightly. Before Lu Feng could react, the rainbow feather suddenly emitted a rainbow of light, reflecting a rainbow towards the eastern part of Cerulean City. He took in the scene before him, took a deep breath, and, following the rainbow's guidance, rode his sonic bicycle, continuing towards the Yunying Mountains. After an unspecified amount of time, Lu Feng arrived at the Yunying Mountains. Gazing at the endless expanse of towering peaks, he lost himself and thought inside, as expected, this is the habitat chosen by the Ho-Oh. It's truly remarkable, Following the guidance of the rainbow feathers, Feng and Eevee began their ascent. As they climbed, the temperature on the mountain began to drop dramatically due to the altitude, gradually becoming chilly. The surroundings were obscured by a thick fog, making it difficult to see clearly. Through his wave power, Feng could clearly sense countless wild Pokémon within the dense mist, constantly observing Feng and Eevee. Their eyes fixed on the rainbow feather in Feng's hand, their faces filled with eagerness. However, as if wary of something, they hesitated, pacing back and forth. Eevee, sensing the surrounding movement with its keen senses, couldn't help but curl into Feng's embrace, calling out a warning. Feng heeded Eevee's warning and gently stroked its fur, calming the agitated Eevee slightly. He glanced toward the thick fog, then down at the rainbow-hued feathers, a thoughtful expression on his face. Are the wild Pokémon around here gathering because of Ho-Oh's power? Suddenly, an old voice echoed from within the thick fog, answering Feng's question. It's indeed Ho-Oh's power that's causing these wild Pokémon to stir. Feng looked directly in the direction of the voice. A short, bearded old man, dressed like a mountaineer, appeared before Feng. He gazed at the rainbow feather in Feng's hand, a look of nostalgia in his eyes as he explained in a complex tone, the Pokémon gathered here all seek to gain a portion of Ho-Oh's power to enhance their own strength. Feng nodded, a sudden realization dawning. Through his conversation, Feng realized that the man before him was none other than Brahma, the man who had pursued Ho-Oh for 20 years. With Brahma's help, Feng easily located Mount King, hidden within the mountain range. Soon, after considerable effort, they reached the summit of Mount King. Master Feng pointed at a rock on the mountaintop, ablaze with rainbow flowers. He excitedly said to Feng, that's the rainbow rock. Just place the rainbow feather there, and you'll summon the Phoenix King. Following Master Feng's guidance, Feng gazed at the nearby rainbow rock and the vibrant rainbow flowers atop it. A brief silence fell. Seeing Feng's lack of movement, Master Feng turned around and asked, puzzled, what's wrong with you? Feng shook his head slightly, took a deep breath, and said to Master Feng, we'll have to wait a moment. I need to summon a helper to challenge the Phoenix King with me and complete the Rainbow Hero's trial. Master Feng was slightly stunned, but after recalling the legend, he suppressed his excitement and quietly waited for Feng's action. Feng pulled a slightly damaged, curved spoon from his space backpack and, using the power of Wave Guide, issued a distant call. Chapter 165, Summoning the Phoenix King at the top of King Mountain. Meanwhile, in the Johto region, clear cliffs. Ever since the New Island incident, Mewtwo has brought many of its clone Pokémon to the steep, impassable clear cliffs. Using its powerful supernatural powers, it manipulates the weather nearby, making the entire area of clear cliffs a forbidding place for humans. At this moment, Mewtwo, along with Pikachu and Meowth, sat at the center of the cliff top, before the vast forest-shrouded Moon Lake. They gazed at the clear water, resembling the moon in the sky, and lived a leisurely life. Suddenly, as if sensing something, Mewtwo's expression changed slightly. It turned its head and gazed puzzledly towards the location of the Azusa Mountain in the Kanto region. Pikachu and Meowth, standing nearby, noticed something strange on Mewtwo's face and asked, somewhat puzzled, Pikachu, Mewtwo, what are you looking at? Meow, you look so serious. Meow. Mewtwo, hearing Pikachu and Meowth's questions, was silent for a long moment before turning around and speaking with a complex tone. I feel a kind call. Pikachu, calling. Meow, but who else could call you besides us? Pikachu and Meowth exchanged a bewildered glance. Mewtwo looked up, his clear eyes fixed on the azure sky, and said with a look of nostalgia, besides you, there's another human who can call me, and this call is coming from the Kanto region. It must be Feng calling me. Pikachu and Meowth recalled the events of New Island, and the image of a human unconsciously surfaced before their eyes, their expressions gradually becoming hazy. Meow, so, you're leaving, Pikachu, Mewtwo. Mewtwo glanced sideways at Pikachu and Meowth. Through his psychic senses, he easily sensed their panic and fear. He said softly, I'm leaving, but I'll be back. Don't worry, Pikachu and Meowth, tell everyone to stay home for a while, or other humans might discover our secluded location. Pikachu and Meowth breathed a sigh of relief and nodded to Mewtwo. Mewtwo glanced at them, then transformed into a streak of blue light and soared into the sky, rapidly flying towards the Kanto region. With Mewtwo's departure, The sudden change in weather over clear cliffs suddenly dissipated, returning to bright sunshine. Elsewhere, Feng took out his broken curved spoon and called out to Mutuo. Then, he set up his tent and quietly waited for Mutuo's arrival near the Rainbow Rock. Seeing Feng's actions, Feng knew that Feng was not going to summon Phoenix King in the short term. He suppressed the urgency in his heart and sighed slightly. He came to Feng's side, sat cross-legged on the ground, and started to communicate with Feng, introducing him to the interesting stories and wonderful things he had experienced in the past 20 years in search of Phoenix King. Time passed slowly, the sun set, and night fell. Feng and Feng sat around the blazing campfire, constantly exchanging experiences. Although Feng was not a Pokémon trainer, some of the things he had experienced, to some extent, gave Feng different inspirations and made him gain a lot. After an unknown amount of time, the night gradually deepened. Feng, who was still communicating with Feng, seemed to have sensed something and suddenly paused. Feng noticed Feng's unusual movements and surveyed the surroundings for a moment. Seeing no wild Pokémon around, he looked bewildered and asked, Feng, what's wrong with you? Feng didn't respond immediately. Instead, he looked toward a distant location shrouded in thick fog and sensed a familiar ripple. He excitedly said, my helper is arriving. Feng paused for a moment after hearing Feng's words. His expression then shifted to ecstasy, and his body began to tremble violently. He remembered Feng's words, when his helper arrived, he would draw out the rainbow feather and summon Hoenn. 10 minutes later, a standing Pokémon figure broke through the dense fog shrouding Shining Mountain and appeared before Feng and Feng Yi. Instantly, a vast supernatural power spread across the Yunying Mountains, spreading a powerful sense of oppression in all directions, making the many wild Pokémon within the mountains feel uneasy. Feng looked at Mutuo, who had come from afar, with a faint smile on his face, just like when they parted. Mutuo stared at Feng with his eyes, his expression full of complexity. Feng Yi, who was standing by, showed an extremely horrified expression on his face after sensing the aura of Mutuo. He never imagined that the helper Feng was talking about would actually be a legendary Pokémon. Moreover, judging from the aura exuded by this Pokémon, it was not an ordinary legendary Pokémon. Mutuo, long time no see. Feng recalled his experience on the new island and said softly to Mutuo. Mutuo heard what Feng said, nodded at him, and glanced around. After seeing the gorgeous rainbow rock and sensing the powerful aura left on it, his expression gradually became solemn. Feng, you summoned me this time. Did something happen? Feng stared at the rainbow rock before him and explained in a low voice, Mutuo, this time I'd like you to join me in a battle to challenge the ancient legends of the Kanto region. An ancient legend of the Kanto region? Is it Mutuo asked doubtfully, his mind unconsciously conjuring up a pink kitten. Feng shook his head slightly, looking up at the bright moon in the sky. His gaze was profound as he said, this world is wonderful. There are many powerful ancient Pokémon. Mew is just one of them. This time, we're challenging Hoenn, the high-level legend in charge of atmospheric circulation. Mutuo was silent for a long moment, his expression changing constantly. He murmured softly, Hoenn, looking at the bewildered Mutuo. Feng explained some of the relevant legends, letting it know that Mew wasn't the only powerful Pokémon in this world. Mutuo listened quietly to Feng's explanation, his eyes burning with fighting spirit. If it weren't for Feng's narration, it wouldn't have known there were so many legendary Pokémon. After all, Mutuo was only a short time old. Team Rocket, in their quest to control Mutuo and transform it into a powerful weapon, had merely instilled in it the belief that Mew was the world's most powerful Pokémon. It suddenly raised its head, fixed its gaze on Feng, and demanded, when are we going to challenge Hoenn? Feng, looking at the eager Mutuo, a smile crossed his face. He whispered, I'll summon Hoenn at dawn. I'll need your help then. Mutuo nodded solemnly, his blood boiling with excitement. Suddenly, as if remembering something, Feng retrieved his space backpack and began searching. After searching for over 10 minutes, he finally found what he was looking for. He slowly unearthed the item, which had been piled in a corner for a long time. When Feng held out the item, Mutuo's heart palpitated. His eyes unconsciously glanced in Feng's direction, a hint of longing on his face. Feng glanced at Mutuo, handed him the item, and whispered, Mutuo, this destruction gene is yours as a token of gratitude for your help this time. Mutuo stared at Feng silently for a long moment, his still clear eyes gazing into his. He solemnly accepted it and expressed his gratitude. He could clearly sense that the item before him seemed to be of great help to him, feeling an inexplicable sense of connection. After accepting the destruction gene, a flash of black light appeared, and it absorbed into Mutuo's body. Simultaneously, Mutuo's aura began to grow dramatically, significantly increasing its strength. As Lu Feng watched this scene unfold, his smile widened, his eyes filled with anticipation. The next morning, the sky was breaking into the morning sun. Golden sunlight streamed down from the sky, painting the entire Shinking Mountain a golden hue, imbuing the already beautiful peak with a unique charm. After breakfast, Lu Feng and Fan Yi packed their bags. Gazing at the iridescent rock, radiating a dazzling rainbow of light, Lu Feng took a deep breath, drew out his iridescent feather, and walked towards the rock. Machado, hidden in Lu Feng's shadow, suddenly appeared before him, guiding him to carefully place the dazzling iridescent feather on the rock. Shadow Guide, Machado, Fan Yi exclaimed excitedly, his breathing becoming increasingly rapid as he watched Machado suddenly appear before Lu Feng. Mutuo simply glanced at Machado quietly, but seeing no ill intentions in it, he disregarded his attention. While Machado's strength was considered impressive among legends, it still lagged far behind high-ranking legends like Ho-Oh. At this moment, the most important thing for Mutuo was to challenge Ho-Oh alongside Lu Feng. At that moment, the crimson feather resting on the rainbow rock suddenly burst into dazzling light, reflecting a rainbow of colors, transforming the azure sky into a dreamlike illusion. The rainbow-colored light pierced through the clouds, soaring towards an unknown location, summoning an ancient legend. Chapter 166, Battle of High Legends, Mutuo vs. Ho-Oh. In a remote area of the Pokémon world, a rainbow of colors streaked across the sky, plunging abruptly into a mountain range. As this dazzling, brilliant rainbow light emerged, a powerful aura erupted from the mountain range. Soon after, a massive figure emerged from the mountain range. It resembled a phoenix or peacock, its feathers mostly gold and red, with yellow tail feathers. This Pokémon's wings were prismatic, tipped with green feathers, and a yellow crest rested on its head. As it flew, sunlight refracted, its feathers shone with a rainbow of colors, creating a vibrant rainbow that imbued it with a remarkable sense of holiness and nobility. This was the ancient legend of the Kanto and Johto regions, the Ho-Oh. With its iridescent wings ablaze, its crimson eyes fixed directly on Mount Azure, the Ho-Oh soared towards it. Above Mount Azure, gazing at the dazzling rock pillars rising into the sky, Lu Feng and Fan Yi's faces were filled with anxiety. They closely watched the changes in the sky, pacing nervously. After an unknown amount of time, a rainbow appeared above Shinking Mountain, a dazzling display of colors. Mutuo, observing this sudden change, suddenly raised its head and gazed directly in the sky. It could clearly sense an extremely powerful aura rapidly approaching their position. Mutuo glanced at Lu Feng and Fan Yi nearby and whispered in a low voice, Ho-Oh is about to appear. Hearing Mutuo's warning, Lu Feng and Fan Yi held their breath, their gaze fixed on the sky, fearing they would miss the moment of Ho-Oh's appearance. Cry, cry, a clear cry echoed from the sky, and a colorful figure pierced through the clouds, catching Lu Feng and Fan Yi's eyes. It was incredibly noble, beautiful, and holy, as if it were the most beautiful sight in the world. Lu Feng took in the scene before him, pulled out his phone, and filmed a beautiful scene. Fan Yi, trembling with excitement, exclaimed, "This is the legendary Ho-Oh." According to historical legends, the Ho-Oh, with its iridescent wings, soars through the sky, searching for its chosen trainer. Those who see it will find eternal happiness. Following the direction of the rainbow, the Ho-Oh flashed across the sky, landing directly on the rainbow rock. With its arrival, a rainbow-colored radiance bathed the entire summit of Shinking Mountain, bringing considerable benefits to Lu Feng and Fan Yi, who bathed in this holy light. When they regained consciousness, Fan Yi gazed at Ho-Oh, standing atop the rainbow rock, and spoke to Lu Feng with anticipation, "Young man. Guided by the rainbow wings, meet Ho-Oh and become the rainbow warrior." Lu Feng nodded earnestly and walked toward the rainbow rock. Looking up at Ho-Oh atop the rock, he took a deep breath and excitedly declared, "Ho-Oh, let's fight." Ho-Oh, upon hearing Lu Feng's words, red pupils flickered in its black eye sockets. It stared at Lu Feng silently for a long moment, sensing his presence, and slowly nodded. As Lu Feng watched, Ho-Oh spread its multicolored wings and flew across from him. Seeing this, Lu Feng turned to look at Mutuo, his gaze blazing with passion. Mutuo and Lu Feng exchanged silent, understanding glances, then walked over to stand in front of him, gazing at Ho-Oh with a solemn expression. Ho-Oh stared at Mewtwo in front of him with a strange expression on his face, and glanced at Lu Feng with surprise in his eyes. It had noticed the existence of Mewtwo a long time ago. But Ho-Oh did not expect that the one he would be fighting against today would be an unknown high legend. Thinking of this, Ho-Oh looked at Lu Feng meaningfully. Not only did it have rainbow feathers that were somewhat similar to its own, but it also had the help of an unknown high legend, and the aura of other high legends remained on its body. This rainbow hero brought by Machado is a bit wild. Lu Feng noticed that Ho-Oh's eyes stayed on Mewtwo for a long time, and he gradually became a little nervous. As if sensing Lu Feng's concern, Ho-Oh turned, looking directly at him, and spoke softly, "Don't worry, I'm simply curious about this unfamiliar, legendary aura. You've passed the test of the 3 sacred beasts and earned Machado's approval, so you're naturally qualified to become the rainbow hero." Lu Feng breathed a sigh of relief upon hearing Ho-Oh's words, his tense spirit gradually relaxing. After a brief preparation, with Brahma and Machado witnessing, Lu Feng commanded Mewtwo and challenged Ho-Oh. The battle between the rainbow hero and Ho-Oh had thus begun. "Mewtwo, mind break," as Lu Feng's voice uttered, a powerful psychic energy erupted from Mewtwo, spreading across the entire Shianking Mountain. Under the influence of this powerful force, the once sunny sky began to undergo a drastic transformation. An invisible wave of thought gradually solidified into substance, and under Mewtwo's control, it rapidly approached Ho-Oh's location. Sensing the immense energy contained within this attack, the Phoenix roared heavenward, letting out a gentle cry. Flapping its rainbow wings, it belched a golden flame from its mouth. Carrying a scorching, holy aura, mingled with scorching heat, it met the sweeping, invisible wave of thought. Holy fire. 2 terrifying techniques collided with a clashing chorus. Mind break versus holy fire. This was a battle between a new high legend and a veteran high legend. Rumble. A deafening explosion echoed, and a dazzling light erupted across Shianking Mountain, obscuring the entirety of the scene. The mountain shook. Smoke filled the air. Fine rocks scatter. The terrifying wave of battle spread in all directions, stirring up powerful winds and dramatically altering the surrounding weather. Lu Feng and Fan Yu watched the battle unfold before them, their eyes filled with horror, their faces turning pale. Is this a battle between high-level legendaries? A mere clash of skills has such a profound impact, Lu Feng sighed, his expression dazed. The ripples of the battle between Mewtwo and Ho-Oh spread throughout the Pokémon world, instantly alerting numerous ancient legendary Pokémon and even a number of human forces. Deep in the ocean near Asia Island, a large white bird, slumbering on the seafloor, suddenly opened its eyes, its gaze turning toward the Azure Mountain. Its voice boomed, "Ho-Oh? There's another unknown legendary Pokémon, in the mountains north of Nibe City, where the world's beginning tree lies." A pink cat with a naive, slightly mischievous gaze crouched on a pink bubble, curiously gazing towards the Azure Mountain. From the ripples of the battle, Mew recognized the 2 combatants, its good sister Ho-Oh, battling Mewtwo, whom it had encountered previously. Excitement crossed its face. As for the legendary Pokémon in other regions, after a brief moment of initial surprise, they returned to their slumber. Kanto region, Quartz Plateau. When the fluctuations of the battle between Mewtwo and Ho-Oh spread across the entire Quartz Plateau, causing the ground there to violently shake, Damalanchi and the 4 Heavenly Kings, who had been in a meeting to discuss the Quartz Conference and the championship rewards, suddenly changed their expressions. What a strong energy fluctuation! Yulongdu turned and went outside, looking at the suddenly changed scene in the sky with a serious expression. What is going on? What on earth happened in the Kanto region that caused the sky to become like this? Ice King Kona slowly walked to Yulongdu's side, looked up at the sudden change in the weather, and sensed the powerful energy fluctuations contained therein, and said with some confusion. At this moment, the Alliance president, Damalanchi, stepped out, his face heavy with worry. He solemnly addressed the surrounding 4 Heavenly Kings. "The test results are in, and they're coming from the Yunying Mountains. That's impossible. The Quartz Plateau is thousands of miles away from the Yunying Mountains," Shiba exclaimed in disbelief. "This change might be related to legendary Pokémon," said Grandma Kikuko, the eldest of the 4 Heavenly Kings, as she stared intently at the strange phenomenon in the sky. After a moment of deep thought, she spoke gravely. "Legendary Pokémon?" the others exclaimed in surprise as they heard Kikuko's words. "And, it should be an ancient legend from the time of Ho-Oh and Lugia, fighting a battle," Kikuko said, her eyes filled with fear, as if recalling a scene from the past. Everyone fell silent after hearing Kikuko's words, their faces filled with a deep sense of worry. After a long time, Yolongdu finally came to his senses and said to everyone, since it's related to legendary Pokémon, let Shiba, Kona and I go to the Yunying Mountains to see what happened. I'll leave the Alliance headquarters to you, Senior Kikuko. After hearing Yolongdu's arrangements, Shiba and Kona nodded slightly, approving of his deployment. Grandma Kikuko was silent for a long time, then raised her head and said softly, then I'll trouble you. I'll be waiting for your return at the Quartz Plateau. Damalanki looked at the three Yolongdu who were about to leave, took a deep breath, and said worriedly, Adu, Shiba and Kona, please. Chapter 167 The Rainbow Warrior Who Can Hand-Mold Wave Missiles. Somewhere in a secret location in the Kanto region. After receiving the relevant report, Sakuki looked at the location of the Yunying Mountains, a moved expression on his face. He had sensed the presence of Mutuo from the strong battle waves, and couldn't help but be stunned. Mutuo, who are you fighting? After a long time, when Sakuki recovered, he said with a serious face. As the leader of the Mutuo project and the one who controlled Mutuo for a period of time, Sakuki naturally knew how powerful Mutuo was. What he didn't expect was that Mutuo, who had disappeared after the Niijima incident, would appear at this time and was still fighting with an unknown entity. I didn't expect Mutuo to be hiding in the Yunying Mountains. No wonder we've been searching for it for so long and haven't found any trace of it. Sakuki pondered for a moment, then said to Manaji standing nearby, quickly, prepare a helicopter and bring our latest equipment. Come with me to the Yunying Mountains to bring Mutuo back. Yes, boss. Please wait a moment. I'll go down and arrange it. Manaji hurriedly addressed Sakuki upon hearing his instructions, trotting off to arrange the relevant tasks. Mutuo, I won't let you escape this time. Sakuki stared at the Yunying Mountains, crushing the glass in his hand with force, and spoke passionately. Atop Shianking Mountain, the battle continued. Mutuo's expression was solemn, but the fighting spirit in his eyes intensified. He continuously used his psychic powers to teleport away from Ho-Oh's attacks, then, with balls of pale blue light, he hurled them towards Ho-Oh's position. Wave missiles. A pale blue missile, carrying Mutuo's conviction, slammed fiercely into Ho-Oh. Boom. Ho-Oh's face etched with pain, he uttered a mournful cry, and a brilliant light emanated from his body. He quickly approached Mutuo and slammed into it. Divine Bird Slam. After absorbing Ho-Oh's attack, Mutuo's body flew backwards toward the mountain, slamming heavily into the rock face. The powerful impact shattered the rock face, sending it plummeting toward the ground, burying Mutuo beneath a pile of rubble. Lu Feng watched the scene unfold, a look of resignation on his face. Although Mutuo had reached the power of High Legend and acquired the exclusive item, the Destruction Gene, there was still a significant gap between him and the ancient Ho-Oh. Perhaps after obtaining the Mega Evolution Stone, he had mastered the secrets of Mega Evolution. At that point, Mutuo had reached the pinnacle of High Legend, even touching the realm of Apex Legend. Legendary power is categorized as Normal Legend, High Legend, Apex Legend, and Alpaca. Boom. The small pile of rocks that had buried Mutuo exploded, and Mutuo soared out. His eyes blazed as he gazed at Ho-Oh, wings flapping in the sky, bathed in a rainbow. Under Lu Feng's command, a flash of white light flashed across Mutuo's body. Empowered by a surge of healing energy, every cell in his body regenerated, instantly recovering from most of his injuries. Self-regeneration. Then, a golden light erupted from Mutuo's body, unleashing a powerful electric shock. With a whistling sound, it aimed directly at Ho-Oh and launched straight out. 100,000 volts. The terrifying current coiled around Ho-Oh, dimming its iridescent feathers. Ho-Oh cried out in pain, then, after using self-regeneration, erupted in blazing flames, rapidly approaching Mutuo. Is this the fire-type move Burnout? Lu Feng noticed the flames erupting from Ho-Oh, his brow furrowing slightly as he spoke uncertainly. Mutuo, use teleport to evade, but as Ho-Oh drew ever closer, Lu Feng quickly recovered and commanded Mutuo. Mutuo, sensing Ho-Oh's powerful aura, quickly used teleport to evade the incoming attack. Seeing Mutuo dodge its attack, Ho-Oh extended its rainbow wings, circling in the sky before abruptly pausing. It glanced at Lu Feng, a look of approval in its eyes. After a soft cry, Ho-Oh landed directly on the rainbow rock, its movements ceasing. Lu Feng stared at the halted Ho-Oh, a puzzled expression on his face, Somewhat bewildered, but he still signaled Mutuo to stop. Only after receiving Ho-Oh's message did he suddenly realize what was happening. This battle was merely a training match for the Rainbow Hero, designed to test his strength. Regardless of the outcome, he would become the Rainbow Hero recognized by Ho-Oh. Lu Feng's face was vexed at the thought, and he sighed deeply. If he had known this would be the outcome, he should have sent out a few of his own Pokémon to see if they could take advantage of Ho-Oh during the battle. Mutuo, stop. The battle is over. Seeing Mutuo about to continue attacking, Lu Feng quickly stopped him. Mutuo, upon hearing Lu Feng's words, wore a look of resignation. Gazing at the saintly Ho-Oh, his fighting spirit burned within him. From the previous battle, he had already realized his growing strength. Perhaps with more fighting, he would achieve even greater progress. But after hearing Lu Feng's words, he could only look at Ho-Oh with regret and pause. Meanwhile, Feng Yi sat not far from them, observing Lu Feng's golden figure in the sunlight, his eyes filled with satisfaction. One day in the future, the Rainbow Hero will surely give birth to a new miracle. Machado, standing beside him, nodded non-committally after hearing Feng Yi's words. With a slightly bewildered expression, he quietly watched the figure that had followed him along the way. Lu Feng stared directly at the Ho-Oh, a look of deep frustration on his face, as if he were about to speak. The Ho-Oh stared at Lu Feng, sensing his thoughts, his eyelids fluttering wildly, and he spoke out to stop him. Very good. From now on, you will be the Rainbow Hero who walks the world on my behalf. With these words, the Ho-Oh breathed a sigh of relief, a flicker of pride in his eyes. I've given you this opportunity for a guided battle. If you don't cherish it, then forget it. As the Ho-Oh finished speaking, Lu Feng's body was enveloped in a golden light, which, aided by this aura, underwent an unforeseen transformation. The wave power and viridian power within him began to surge, reaching a new level. At this moment, Lu Feng could sense the changes within himself. With his physical fitness alone, he might be able to withstand ordinary Pokémon attacks. Furthermore, Lu Feng's control over the power of wave guidance seemed to have reached an unfathomable level. With a thought, a pale blue wave suddenly appeared in his right hand, brimming with immense energy. Is this a wave missile? Lu Feng said in disbelief, glancing at his right hand with a smug look. Mutuo, hearing Lu Feng's words and sensing the aura of his hand, nodded. With a physique slightly weaker than a super rookie, and the ability to use a wave missile with my hands, have I become a humanoid Pokémon? Lu Feng muttered, slightly dazed. After receiving confirmation of his psychic power, Ho-Oh, observing Lu Feng's transformation, nodded with satisfaction and soared into the sky. Before he could even get far, he stumbled upon hearing Lu Feng's words. If he hadn't adjusted himself in time, he would have made a fool of himself in front of his new recruit. Ho-Oh, don't leave so quickly. My Pokémon still needs your help, Lu Feng shouted, watching Ho-Oh soar high into the sky and transform into Rainbow. Brahma, Mutuo, and Machado, all standing nearby, looked at each other in bewilderment. Machado, in particular, covered his face with his hands, pretending he didn't recognize Lu Feng. Can this young man really be the Rainbow Hero with this look? Brahma stared at Lu Feng blankly, muttering hesitantly. Lu Feng watched the receding Ho-Oh, and after confirming it wouldn't return, he shook his head regretfully and muttered quietly, it seems Ho-Oh is a bit stingy. I need to find some part-time jobs sometime. Thinking of the other high-level legends in the Pokémon world, Lu Feng couldn't help but praise his own cleverness. At this moment, the system notification finally arrived, ringing in Lu Feng's ears. Ding. Congratulations to the host for completing the legendary quest, Rainbow Hero Trial at Shining Mountain. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the Rainbow Hero title, 1 Holy Ash, Ho-Oh's protection, 1 legendary item, Holy Flame Source, plus 5% world convergence, world announcement. Congratulations to player 9527 for completing the legendary quest. World convergence has increased significantly. Please continue your efforts. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 2 golden crowns, 1 mega evolution stone set of your choice. Many blue star trainers, after hearing the world announcement, glanced at the familiar numbers, sighed softly, and with a numb expression on their faces, ignored it. Upon hearing the system notification, Lu Feng's eyes lit up, his face filled with joy. He had originally thought he would not be able to obtain Ho-Oh's Holy Flame, but to his surprise, the legendary item mentioned in the system notification was actually the Holy Flame Source. With this, Charizard's Buddha's wrathful lotus plan had a solution. At this point, With the increase in world integration, Lu Feng's world integration had reached 31%, which was enough to trigger a system update. However, he was somewhat puzzled by the fact that the system seemed to have suddenly crashed, with no prompt for an update. Chapter 168 Sakaki, there is something I want to say, but I don't know whether I should say it or not. After an unknown amount of time, the system seemed to have recovered, and the cold, mechanical beeping sounded again. Ding. World fusion has reached 31%. System update initiated. Ding. As the update is approaching the 35% mark, the first world fusion will be triggered. System update postponed. Please understand, after hearing the system beep, Lu Feng was stunned for a moment, his eyes fixed in a daze. After a long moment, when Lu Feng finally recovered, he couldn't help but smack his lips. Oh my god. Is this even possible? The system didn't respond to Lu Feng's complaint, returning to its aloof demeanor and falling silent. Seeing no further response from the system, Lu Feng shook his head and turned his gaze to Mutuo and Brahma. They were looking at him with strange expressions, leaving Lu Feng somewhat bewildered, but he didn't pay much attention. After a brief moment of thought, he looked directly at Mutuo and asked casually, "Mutuo, are you leaving?" Mutuo nodded at Lu Feng, glanced toward the Johto region, and said softly, "I am indeed leaving. Many of my friends are waiting for me to return." Lu Feng's face flickered with regret. Although he knew Mutuo would say this and had been mentally prepared, he still felt a little disappointed after hearing it in person. Mutuo noticed the change in Lu Feng's expression and said comfortingly, "Don't be sad, as long as you call me, I will come as soon as possible." Lu Feng was silent for a while, nodded at it, and thanked it sincerely. "Thank you for your help in this challenge." Mutuo recalled the battle experience just now and the powerful strength of Ho-Oh. His face couldn't help but soften, and he said in a low voice, "Thank you this time too. Let me see the ancient legends of this world. I didn't expect that there would be so many powerful beings in this world. I will go back and work hard to improve my strength, and strive to help you defeat these ancient legends next time." Lu Feng looked at Mutuo's serious expression, and immediately put away the smile on his face. He said to Mutuo seriously, "Mutuo, you still have huge life energy hidden in your body. If you can stimulate them, your strength will not be worse than those long-standing ancient legends." After hearing Lu Feng's words, Mutuo was a little dazed. He looked at Lu Feng deeply for a long time and nodded. After bidding farewell to Lu Feng, Brahma, and the others, Mutuo was about to take off, leaving Azure Mountain and returning to Johto. But Lu Feng stopped it, leaving Mutuo bewildered. "Mutuo, since we're leaving anyway, why don't you give us a ride?" Lu Feng said sheepishly, rubbing his hands. Mutuo glanced at Lu Feng with a twitch in his lips. He finally understood why Ho-Oh had fled so quickly. "As expected of you, Rainbow Hero. We're so familiar with each other, yet you still wanted to feed him." If Ho-Oh had walked even slower, Mutuo doubted whether its feathers would have survived. Mutuo, with a helpless expression, used his psychic powers to carry them all out of Azure Mountain and to a place not far from Cerulean City. Then, reluctantly, Lu Feng soared into the sky, disappearing from their sight. Brahma, upon seeing Mutuo depart, smiled broadly and thanked Lu Feng. After a brief exchange, Feng Yu also parted ways with Lu Feng. He wanted to rush back to record this experience carefully. In the end, only Machado and Lu Feng remained in the same place. Lu Feng turned his head to look at Machado, a hint of cunning in his eyes, and asked calmly, "Machado, what are your plans next?" Machado thought carefully for a long time, his orange-red pupils full of confusion, and his face showed a helpless expression. The guidance mission entrusted to it by the King of Phoenix had already been completed when Lu Feng was recognized and became the Rainbow Hero. The other Rainbow Hero who was still undergoing assessment did not need it to guide. Thinking about it this way, it seemed that there was nothing else to do. After a long silence, Machado raised his head and said, somewhat bewilderedly, "Machado, I should continue to improve my strength, reaching the level of Lord Ho-Oh." Lu Feng, upon hearing Machado's words, smiled involuntarily and said meaningfully, "In that case, why not continue following me and discover other legends in the spirit world? Perhaps you'll gain some unique insights along the way, and perhaps one day, with these insights, you'll ascend to the realm of high legend." Machado's eyes flashed with excitement and enthusiasm, as if he had seen the blueprint Lu Feng had painted for him. He nodded slightly. After spending these days together, he had become accustomed to Lu Feng, so he didn't dwell on it. Although he still felt something was amiss, the promise Lu Feng had made was simply too tempting. Seeing Machado agree, Lu Feng secretly rejoiced, thinking quietly, ace bodyguard Machado, already in place. Lu Feng then left with Machado, heading towards Pallet Town. Shortly after Lu Feng and his companions departed, Yulongdu and the others arrived near the Yunying Mountains. Seeing the weather improve, they were filled with surprise. Could the battle be over? Siba asked hesitantly, looking at the silent Yunying Mountains. Yulongdu and Kona exchanged a glance, then said in a deep voice, "Let's go up and see what happened and why the legendary war broke out." Siba and Kona nodded briefly and followed Yulongdu into the Yunying Mountains. Following the traces of the battle, they searched for a long time before finally finding Shianking Mountain. Upon reaching the summit, they gazed upon the devastated Shianking Mountain and sensed lingering energy fluctuations, their faces filled with horror. Is this the place where those two legendary Pokémon fought? Kona surveyed the surroundings, a moment of fascination. Judging from the lingering aura, this must be the site of the battle, Yurayudo said, puzzled, as he surveyed the scene before him. But what puzzles me is why they were fighting. After Yurayudo's question, Kona and Shiba fell silent. After all, the Kanto region wasn't like the other regions. There weren't Groudon and Kyogre fighting each other on sight, nor were there the black and white dragons of Unova battling over ideological differences. Suddenly, Kona stumbled upon the Rainbow Rock. Her uncanny intuition compelled her to examine it several times. The more she gazed at it, the more she felt that this massive rock pillar was more than she had imagined. After taking photos and seeking help from the Alliance, she discovered the name of the crystal rock from an ancient document. Is this the Rainbow Rock associated with Ho-Oh? Kona asked with a twinkle in her eyes, a hint of longing. Yulongdu looked at the Rainbow Rock before him, comparing it to the image on the communicator. He gradually sorted out his thoughts and said with a sudden realization. So the one fighting here was the ancient legendary Ho-Oh from the Kanto region. What about the other legendary Pokémon? It can't be Lugia, can it? Shiba frowned, a headache coming to his mind. I don't know, but it looks like they ended the fight peacefully, Yulongdu said thoughtfully after reviewing the literature describing the powers of ancient legendary Pokémon and gazing at the Azure Mountain before him. Shiba was somewhat bewildered and looked at Yulongdu in confusion. High legendary battles can damage continents at best, or even destroy the world at worst. While Azure Mountain is a bit battered, it's not too badly damaged. Kona beside him sighed helplessly and patiently explained. Shiba finally understood. Just then, a loud noise echoed from the sky, instantly startling Yulongdu and the other two surveying the ground. Following the sound, they saw a plane with a large R emblazoned on its fuselage appear directly before them, leaving Yulongdu and the others stunned for a moment. Team Rocket's plane gradually descended. Sakuki stepped out through the hatch, gazing at the crumbling mountains around him. He sensed the lingering presence, and a faint smile crept up his lips. But before he could say anything, he heard a noise not far away. Sakuki turned his head and looked toward Yulongdu and the other two, his gaze meeting theirs. Suddenly, the entire atmosphere of Shianking Mountain fell silent, and everything around them became utterly still. Yulongdu, Cyrillic letter there. Sakuki, oh. The two groups stared at each other for a moment, their faces filled with bewilderment. They had never expected to meet under such circumstances. After a long time, Yulongdu and the others reacted, quickly took out their Pokémon, and attacked Team Rocket. Sakuki, with a sullen face, organized Team Rocket to fight back against Kona and the other two. If Sakuki hadn't been paying attention to his image, he would have wanted to curse. It's simply MMP. We actually ran into people from the Alliance. There's something I don't know whether I should say it or not. Just like that, the Shianking Mountain, which had just calmed down, broke out again in a shocking battle. Lu Feng would definitely not have thought that because of his laziness, Mewtwo used his supernatural powers to take them away from Shianking Mountain, and he actually missed the grand occasion of the Kanto Alliance versus Team Rocket. Chapter 169, Use Magic to Defeat Magic. Wednesday, January 20th. After leaving Cerulean City, Lu Feng returned to Pallet Town, temporarily staying at Professor Oak's laboratory. Initially, Lu Feng had planned to find an inn in town and stay there until the quartz conference began. However, Professor Oak, after seeing the video on his phone, persuaded him to stay. After a moment's reflection, Lu Feng readily accepted the invitation and remained at the laboratory. Unbeknownst to Lu Feng, shortly after he left Azure Mountain, A fierce battle erupted between the Kanto Alliance and Team Rocket within Azure Mountain. Ultimately, several Team Rocket members were captured, and Sakuki and his senior officers retreated. Meanwhile, Lu Feng was training his Pokémon in the hills behind Oak's laboratory. He carefully counted his haul and glanced at Charizard and Tajukigo, who were diligently training nearby. After a moment's contemplation, Lu Feng pulled out a perfect grade Lightstone and a flaming feather. This flaming feather is a remarkable Pokémon resource, Molter's Tail Feather. It's a reward from the Kanto League to Lu Feng, thanking him for his contributions during the New Island incident, the Green Meadows Town incident, and the Celebi Forest incident. Holding these two items tightly, Lu Feng walked over to Pokémon, took out the Lightstone, and said to him, "Little one, it's time for you to evolve." "Chucky!" Pokémon exclaimed excitedly upon hearing Lu Feng's words. Lu Feng gazed at the flying Pokémon and slowly offered him the Lightstone. Encouraged by Lu Feng, Pokémon extended its short hand and gently placed it on the Lightstone. A brilliant light erupted, and Pokémon's body was enveloped in an endless glow, undergoing a profound transformation. When the light of evolution faded, a bird-like Pokémon appeared before Lu Feng. It has an egg-shaped body covered in white fur, broad triangular wings, and tiny, tucked-together legs. A red and blue triangular marking is visible on its underbelly, and a red, white, and blue crest of spiky feathers crowns its head. This is Tajukus, the evolved form of Pokémon. "Congratulations, Pokémon," Lu Feng said, gazing at Pokémon with a faint smile. Upon witnessing Pokémon's evolution, the other Pokémon flocked to greet it. "Chucky," Tajukus said shyly, silently running to Lu Feng's side. Thanks to its evolution, Tajukus's power has reached the pinnacle of gym-level prowess, soaring from level 43 to 47. It will soon enter the realm of a near-elite. Furthermore, with this increased power, Tajukus has learned moves like Divine Bird Slam, Fairy Wind, and Super Speed, greatly enhancing its ability to fight enemies. Lu Feng then turned his attention to Charizard and handed it a Molter's Tail Feather. Charizard stared intently at the flaming feather before him, a look of longing on its face. It sensed the feather's potential, and after taking a deep breath, it accepted the feather from Lu Feng's hand. As Charizard touched Molter's Tail Feather, the previously dormant feather suddenly came to life, its flames gradually transforming into the form of a firebird, resisting Charizard's touch. Charizard looked at Lu Feng innocently, then became slightly irritated. Lu Feng, taken aback by the scene before him, wondered what had happened to revive the spirit within the feather. He carefully examined Charizard and the transforming Molter's Tail Feather, lost in thought. After a long moment, Lu Feng, sensing the source of the problem through his wave power, finally discovered the source. Because Charizard had been imbued with Entei's flames, Molter's Tail Feathers had undergone a drastic change after sensing his presence. After all, even ordinary Pokémon have a sense of territory, let alone a legendary Pokémon. "Is this what they call a conflict between different fires?" Lu Feng said, his chin resting on his hand, observing the scene with fascination. Charizard, upon hearing Lu Feng's words, growled in disapproval at his gloating expression. Hearing Charizard's growl, Lu Feng's playful smile faded, and he said solemnly, "Magic must defeat magic." Charizard stared at Lu Feng in bewilderment, his mind still grumbling, unsure of what Lu Feng meant. Seeing that Charizard didn't quite grasp his point, Lu Feng shook his head and sighed. He then took out his rainbow feather and placed it near Molter's Tail Feathers. Molter's Tail Feathers, previously pulsating and fluttering, suddenly quieted like a startled little rabbit upon sensing the deep aura emanating from the iridescent feathers. Seeing Molter's Tail Feathers instantly quiet, Lu Feng's mouth twitched, and he couldn't help but sneer, "I thought you were so strong. Turns out you're just a coward." The flaming Molter's Tail Feathers, Greek letter Omega. Charizard watched the scene with immense excitement, spitting a wisp of flame toward the sky and roaring loudly. With Lu Feng's help, Charizard successfully merged with Molter's life force, giving its tail flames another unique color. Since the Molter's feathers weren't taken from a legendary Molter's, but from a Molter's of comparable strength to Lu Feng's Articuno, the boost to Charizard was minimal, barely raising its level by 1, to level 55. However, with Charizard's Fury Lotus, a fusion of his own flames and Molters's, he could practically dominate a Quasi-King level. Thinking of this, Lu Feng nodded in satisfaction. After dealing with Charizard, Lu Feng shifted his focus to Eevee. Eevee noticed Lu Feng's gaze, raised its paw pads, and began to act cute. Lu Feng looked at the lazy Eevee with a slight headache, and said with a hint of disappointment, "Eevee, stop playing." As if sensing Lu Feng's suppressed anger, Eevee graciously walked over to him, rubbing its soft fur against Lu Feng's trouser legs and flattering him. Looking at the pitiful Eevee, Lu Feng's anger subsided. He stroked Eevee's body twice and pondered silently. After years of training and growth, Eevee's stand had become capable of splitting into 4 separate forms. But after reaching the 4th level of stand, Eevee's strength seemed to have hit a plateau, with no sign of improvement. Lu Feng could only seek other ways to improve Eevee's strength. After a long while, Lu Feng gradually regained his composure. Looking at Eevee before him, a plan began to form. He brought Eevee to the research facility and borrowed a video disc from Professor Oak showing the skills of Return and Revenge. He let Eevee watch the video and learn the skills on his own. Return and Revenge, if used well, can be truly powerful. The power of these 2 moves is determined by the level of intimacy between the Pokémon and its trainer. Return increases in power as intimacy increases, while Revenge's effectiveness increases as intimacy decreases. If the intimacy between a Pokémon and its trainer reaches an incredible level, the damage dealt by these 2 skills can rival even the unique abilities of legendary Pokémon. After dealing with his own Pokémon problems, Lu Feng joined Professor Oak, leisurely sipping tea and listening to him recite his favorite Senryu. But this brief moment didn't last long. When Satoshi rushed to the research center, Lu Feng knew his happy hour was over. "Ash, what happened to you? Why are you so edgy?" Professor Oak asked, perplexed, looking at the anxious Satoshi. Lu Feng also glanced at Satoshi, but remained silent, quietly awaiting his response. "Professor Oak, I stumbled upon this while training at Mount Portal." Then, Satoshi recounted the story of the discovery of Super Ancient Jengar, Super Ancient Alakazam, and Super Ancient Jigglypuff from the original story. Professor Oak's interest piqued, and he quickly asked Satoshi to take him to the location for a personal inspection. Lu Feng listened quietly, his eyes flickering. If Lu Feng remembered correctly, this was probably a super ancient Pokémon left behind by a now extinct super ancient Pokémon civilization. Honestly, Lu Feng was quite curious about the powers of super ancient Pokémon. So, after seeing Professor Oak and Satoshi set off, he followed them, slowly walking towards Mount Portora. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 170, Jengar, no need to release the ancestor, give me time, I will surpass the ancestor. 20 minutes later, Lu Feng followed Professor Oak and Satoshi to Mount Portoro near Pallet Town. Was this the work of those 2 ancient Pokémon? Lu Feng couldn't help but sigh, gazing at the devastated scene ahead. While he knew ancient Pokémon were powerful, he hadn't imagined they were this formidable. Judging by the lingering aura at the scene, the 3 ancient Pokémon were likely no less powerful than a Celestial King. Remember, this was only the lingering power left after being sealed away for countless years. If they were ancient Pokémon in their prime, their power would likely be no less than that of the giant Dragonite Lu Feng knew. No wonder they could destroy an entire Pokémon civilization in a single night, Lu Feng sighed, his eyes full of deep thought. Upon noticing Lu Feng and Professor Oak's arrival, a short-haired young beauty emerged from the nearby archaeological team, which was currently gathering strength. She was dressed in a yellow denim suit and a red headband. She wasn't very old, but she was full of energy and had an indescribable air of valor. She approached Professor Oak and humbly addressed him, "Hello, Professor Oak. I'm White. I apologize for causing such a big commotion near Pallet Town this time." Professor Oak glanced at Professor White, then surveyed the surroundings. He shook his head and said, "I've heard of you. Your published archaeological research on ancient Pokémon civilizations is excellent. Ash already told me about this incident. It was just an accident. Don't take it to heart." Seeing that Professor Oak didn't seem to be blaming her, Dr. White breathed a sigh of relief, feeling a sense of relief. Was this caused by the battle between those 3 ancient Pokémon? Professor Oak, who had just arrived near the archaeological team's base, carefully examined the remains and inquired curiously. Professor White and the others around him, recalling what had just happened, looked terrified and nodded to Professor Oak. "Professor Oak, this is the item that sealed those 3 ancient Pokémon?" Dr. White removed the sealed items he had just placed and carefully handed them to Professor Oak, speaking with a hint of shock. I suspect this is most likely the origin of the Pokeball, the means by which ancient humans gained the power of Pokémon. Professor Oak took the items from Dr. White and patiently examined the golden eye, the spoon-shaped crystal, the black crystal stone, and the ancient bronze bell, his expression grave. After a long pause, Professor Oak let out a light breath, slowly raised his head, and spoke to the group without hesitation. White's suspicion is very likely true. I see a structure similar to that of a Pokeball in these sealed items. This is truly incredible, Misty exclaimed in surprise at Professor Oak's response. Suddenly, Professor Oak picked up the black crystal stone and gently touched it. The previously silent black crystal stone once again glowed with a dark, sinister light. The previously vanished super ancient Jenga reappeared before everyone. Ah! This, Dr. White, upon seeing Professor Oak's actions, was about to warn him, but before she could say anything, Professor Oak triggered a mechanism on the crystal stone, releasing the super ancient Jenga. Professor Oak, Ash, Brock, and the others exclaimed in alarm as they gazed at the enormous super ancient Jenga. Feng nudged Ash and the others, signaling they weren't worried. He whispered, "Don't worry, Professor Oak is very powerful." Ash, with a look of disbelief and shock, said, Feng, don't be ridiculous. Professor Oak is just a scholar." Before pursuing Pokemon research, Professor Oak was the champion of the Kanto region, Feng said in a gloomy tone, hearing Ash's questioning words. "That's impossible," Ozzy stammered, his eyes wide. Feng scoffed, pointed to Professor Oak's position, and said calmly, "If you don't believe me, just look for yourself and you'll see." Ozzy and the other two looked at each other in disbelief. Following Feng's direction, they looked over, only to see an incredible scene. A Dragonite had appeared out of nowhere in front of Professor Oak, quietly guarding him. The Dragonite's aura suggested it was a champion-level Pokemon. The reawakened ancient Jenga, upon noticing Feng and the others, strode towards them with heavy steps, condensing a ball of inky black light and launching it directly. Professor Oak observed the ancient Jenga intently, a curious expression on his face. After witnessing the ancient Jenga's attack, Professor Oak remained calm, showing no trace of worry. Before ancient Jenga's attack could reach Professor Oak, the Dragonite standing before him unleashed a powerful beam of light, unleashing a terrifying wave of energy. A destructive ray. This powerful light directly deflected ancient Jenga's attack, sending it crashing to the ground. Ancient Jenga's face etched with pain, its eyes filled with fear as it gazed at Dragonite. Professor Oak is truly this powerful, Ozzy observed, slightly dazed. Once he realized what was happening, his eyes glowed again, and he excitedly declared, "I've decided. For the next week or so, I'm going to have Professor Oak train me." Feng sighed after Ozzy's words and returned his gaze to the ancient Jenga. Professor Oak's Dragonite had already subdued the rebellious ancient Jenga. Professor Oak, armed with the appropriate instruments, was constantly probing and recording the Jenga's movements. Upon seeing this, Feng hurriedly brought his Jenga to Professor Oak's side and asked, "Doctor, have you discovered anything?" "Indeed, I've discovered something quite significant. This Jenga possesses a strange power, which is why it's grown so enormous, and, because of this power, Jenga's strength has also increased significantly." Professor Oak frowned and explained to Feng. After receiving Professor Oak's answer, Feng's eyes flickered, then gradually deepened. He radiated his wave power, carefully examining the ancient Jenga before him. Finding that it was just as Professor Oak had predicted, he pondered silently. Feng knew that if he could uncover the source of this ancient Jenga's power, it would undoubtedly bring significant improvements to the Pokemon in his team. Immediately, Feng raised his head and asked Professor White, who was standing nearby, "Dr. White, do you know of any other documents related to this ancient Pokemon civilization?" Dr. White paused briefly after hearing Feng's question. Then, he took out the stone tablet he had just discovered and whispered to Feng, "Based on the text on this tablet, there are also related legends. I suspect this ancient Pokemon civilization is a surviving branch of the once destroyed Pokélandis Empire. After all, their fates are so similar." The Pokélandis Empire. Feng muttered the name, his eyes full of thought as he thanked Dr. White. "Dr. White, thank you for your answer." Dr. White waved his hand, gave Feng a faint smile, and walked over to Professor Oak to begin his research with him. Feng glanced at the sky, said goodbye to Ozzy and the others, and then returned to Pallet Town. After returning to Pallet Town, Feng turned on his computer and began searching for records related to Pocahontas. After retrieving a few scraps of information online, Feng struggled to recall his memories. Somehow, the name of Pocahontas felt incredibly familiar. After a long while, he finally found the relevant information, a complex expression crossing his face. So it's this suicidal empire. I was wondering why it felt so familiar. In ancient times, the Pocahontas Empire spanned several regions, its capital not located in Kanto. It was once immensely prosperous, but the Pocahontas king, attempting to covet the power of the whole, angered him and met his doom. If Feng remembered correctly, the remains of a Pocahontas palace still remained somewhere near Nibi City, containing the stone orb that sealed the Pocahontas king's soul. If he could find this stone orb, he could retrieve the answers Feng sought from the ancient king. As soon as he thought of this, Feng made a decision. He informed his Pokémon of his upcoming plan, which made them excited. Feng's Jengar, in particular, showed an expression of impatience. He had witnessed the power of the ancient Jengar with his own eyes and knew just how strong this power from the ancient times was. Jengar looked at Feng, who was ready to go, and recalled the ancient Jengar just now. He said in a firm voice, "Kaoji, no need to release the ancestors. Give me time, I will surpass the ancestors." Feng sensed what Jengar meant, and the corners of his mouth twitched slightly, and he could only sigh softly. Chapter 171 Feng, I think you are a ball. The next day, the sun was shining brightly, the sky clear and blue. After briefly explaining the situation to Professor Oak, Feng left Pallet Town and rode Charizard, heading towards Nibe City. After 4 hours, he finally arrived near Nibe City. After searching for a while, Feng followed Zyagang's directions and came to a forest where a bluestone pavement remained. The ruins of the Pocahontas Empire should be here. He gazed at the bluestone pavement, a slight smile curling his lips. After a brief moment of thought, Feng tossed Swampert's Pokeball and sent out his own Swampert. Pointing at the bluestone pavement in front of him, he gave the command, "Swampert, aim at the bluestone in front of you and use dig." "Swampert." Swampert growled, his eyes fixed on the ground before him, and began to use his dig move. Bang, bang, bang. Soon, a vast hole appeared in the ground before Feng. It was filled with deep, pitch-black darkness, like the yawning maw of a ferocious beast. Feng looked at Swampert, who had returned to his side, and said with a faint smile, "Swampert, well done, Swampert." Swampert's eyes narrowed into a single line, and he couldn't help but grin. Feng pulled out the rope he had prepared from his backpack and tied one end securely to a nearby tree. He descended slowly, following the direction of the hole, holding onto the rope tightly. After an unknown amount of time, perhaps 3 stories down, Feng finally touched the ground. The light within the ruins wasn't as dim as it had been from above. With the help of the faint light that had long lingered within the ruins, he could clearly see his surroundings. The walls around him were covered in various Pokémon images and countless ancient characters, seemingly recording some ancient message. Feng carefully read for a while, using his ancient language to finally understand the information written on the wall. The wall records the glorious history of the Pocahontas Empire, as well as some boasts from King Pocahontas. When King Pocahontas claimed to have sealed Ho-Oh within the ruins, Feng's mouth twitched, his face filled with question marks. Even games wouldn't dare set it up like that. "It's truly amazing." Feng shook his head, sighed mockingly, and spoke in a gloomy voice. After briefly browsing the murals, Feng carefully followed the surrounding passages and entered. Using the power of wave guidance, he avoided triggering the mechanisms within the ruins. Cautiously, he led Eevee, searching for the room where King Pocahontas resided. During this time, he also spotted the stone statue of Pikachu on the pillar at the end of the corridor. However, Feng did not hesitate to touch the Pikachu statue before him. Although the stone statue was so lifelike, it made one want to pick it up and examine it more closely. Feng stroked his chin and gazed at the giant Pikachu image on the other wall, examining it with interest. "Is this the stone door that hides the giant stone mechanism in the anime?" Feng stared for a moment, then turned his gaze to the corridor opposite the stone door. According to the information given in the anime, King Pocahontas' chamber should be at the end of this corridor. Feng followed the direction of the corridor, leading Eevee deeper and deeper, gradually reaching the end of the corridor. A heavy stone door appeared before him. Carved into it was a circular pattern that vaguely resembled a modern Pokeball. The marks on it were mottled, solemn, An ancient. Lu Feng gently pushed the stone door before him, but did not push it open. Instead, he spread his wave power to explore the surrounding mechanisms. After a careful search, he discovered a mechanism hidden in a certain wall brick. With immense effort, Lu Feng removed the inlaid bricks and forcefully turned the mechanism hidden within. With a resounding click, the heavy stone door slowly swung open, a glint of golden light illuminating Lu Feng's eyes. Gazing at the room before him, Lu Feng took a deep breath and stepped inside with his EV. This king's chamber, hidden deep within the ruins, was incredibly spacious, yet bare. Aside from an ancient throne, carved with a massive stone statue, symbolizing the king's majesty, and a stone orb resting atop it, only a dozen or so massive pillars, topped with flames, remained. Booey, so boring, the EV gazed around for a moment, then, finding the room empty, called out listlessly, slumping weakly onto Lu Feng's shoulder. This king of Poclantis is truly poor. Such a large room is completely empty, Lu Feng muttered softly, rubbing his EV's head. Lu Feng silently walked to the throne and examined the inscriptions surrounding it. As if he had discovered something, his breathing quickened. This is a record of the Poclantis Empire using its ancient power to create powerful ancient Pokémon and conquer numerous regions. It seems I was right. The Pokémon civilization of Mount Portoro is a branch of the Poclantis Empire, Lu Feng said, his face flushed with excitement. After a long moment, after he had finished viewing all the murals, he let out a long sigh and turned to look at the stone ball on the throne. As if sensing Lu Feng's gaze, the stone ball containing the king of Poclantis shook slightly. If it weren't for Lu Feng's wave guide power and his heightened perception, he wouldn't have noticed the stone ball's abnormality. Gazing at the stone sphere so close, Lu Feng's face showed a wavering expression, a hint of uncertainty. Knowing that the stone sphere contained the soul of the king of Poclantis, he dared not touch it. Even though he had already reached this point, the thought of being possessed gave Lu Feng goosebumps. After careful consideration, Lu Feng pulled a common fossil from his backpack and hurled it heavily at the stone sphere on the throne. Bang! With a resounding crash, the stone sphere on the throne began to roll under the impact of the tiny fossil, crashing heavily to the ground. Instantly, the atmosphere in the room shifted to a tense note following Lu Feng's actions. The king of Poclantis and the stone ball. Oh? King Poclantis had already awakened when Lu Feng entered the room. But, accustomed to the art of hiding, he didn't immediately emerge. Instead, he remained quietly within the stone ball, eagerly awaiting Lu Feng's touch, allowing him to reappear in this world through spirit possession. Then, utilizing the ancient Pokémon breeding methods of yesteryear, he could restore the Poclantis civilization to its former state. He had waited with excitement, anticipation, and eagerness, but he hadn't expected Lu Feng to defy common sense. He didn't even approach him, let alone touch the stone ball. This puzzled him. What was this player doing? Why wasn't he playing by the rules? Lu Feng glanced at the stone ball lying on the ground and said in surprise, no reaction. After some thought, Lu Feng picked up the fossil he had just found and threw it precisely at the stone ball's location. Amidst the violent shaking, the soul of King Poclantis felt a little uncomfortable, but being good at forbearance, he chose not to come out of the stone ball, but waited quietly. Lu Feng touched his nose, thought silently for a while, then raised his head, softly chanted the spell from the ruins, and said to the stone ball, light. Come out of the darkness. As Lu Feng's voice fell, a faint light appeared on the stone ball, and the soul of King Poclantis appeared in front of Lu Feng somewhat reluctantly. He looked at Lu Feng with resentment in his eyes. He didn't expect that Lu Feng was not curious about the stone ball placed on the throne. This disrupted all his plans. After a moment of silence, King Poclantis adjusted his mood, showing a majestic look, and said to Lu Feng in a deep voice, young man. Are you the one who woke me up? Lu Feng listened to King Poclantis' words, watching his dramatic performance, his lips twitching as he said, if it wasn't me, do you think it could have been a ghost-type Pokemon that woke you? Cough cough cough. King Poclantis choked a bit at Lu Feng's words and couldn't help coughing a few times. Booey, the Pokeball has become a spirit. Eevee looked at King Poclantis, its eyes gleaming, and exclaimed in surprise. Lu Feng rubbed its head, signaling for Eevee to be quiet. Eevee, looking at the threatening Lu Feng, slumped dejectedly on his shoulder, glancing at King Poclantis from time to time. I didn't expect anyone to make it this far. Young man, are you a beast master? King Poclantis, seeing Lu Feng's lack of understanding, asked him pretentiously. I suppose so. Lu Feng pondered for a moment, then nodded. It's been a while since I last heard that name. Do you know who I am? King Peclandus suppressed his anger and asked Lu Feng. Lu Feng glanced at his condition and said jokingly, I think you're a ball, King Peclandus. Ah. This young man is so rude. Chapter 172 Super Ancient Chinger. As Lu Feng uttered those words, the entire room fell silent. The smile on King Peclandus's face faltered, his entire expression twisted together, becoming slightly distorted. It wasn't until a long time later, after his anger had subsided, that he slowly calmed down. A smile returned to his face, and he clenched his fists. He patiently asked Lu Feng, Young man, I wonder what era it is now? How long have I been asleep? Lu Feng feigned confusion, looking at King Peclandus in surprise. Huh? Seeing that Lu Feng had finally grasped the point of his words, King Peclandus breathed a sigh of relief and recounted his origins. I am the great king of Peclandus, once ruling over a vast territory, the Qing dynasty? The Qing dynasty fell long ago? Lu Feng couldn't help but blurt out the question after hearing King Peclandus's words, recalling a thought in his mind. After hearing Lu Feng's words, King Peclandus' body stiffened, his expression dazed. He stared at Lu Feng with a bewildered look, unsure of what he meant. Oh. No. I meant the Peclandus Empire perished long ago, Lu Feng said nervously, wiping the sweat from his forehead. He hadn't expected to accidentally interrupt, and his expression instantly turned awkward. Evie, listening to their conversation, couldn't help but cover his face with his paw pads, somewhat speechless. Then why, as a king, are you in a ball? Lu Feng quickly changed the subject, asking him. Hearing Lu Feng's words, King Peclandus's rage rose, and he felt the urge to strike. After a moment's silence, he growled, That's not important. Young man, what is your wish? In return for awakening me, I can help you fulfill your wish. Any wish? Lu Feng asked hesitantly, a look of surprise on his face. Peclandus looked at Lu Feng, who seemed somewhat tempted, and nodded in satisfaction. He imagined that a young man like Lu Feng, while traveling, would probably express his desire to strengthen his strength. Then, using the methods of cultivating ancient Pokémon, he could lure Lu Feng into touching the stone ball, allowing his soul to attach itself to Lu Feng and reappear in this world. But Lu Feng's next words caught him off guard, leaving him in a state of panic. Then I want Ho-Oh to be my Pokémon. Can you do it? Lu Feng asked with a slightly teasing look in his eyes. King Peclandus was petrified. He glared at Lu Feng with resentment and said grimly, The Ho-Oh is a god. Young man, I advise you to give up this idea. If it weren't for maintaining his composure, King Peclandus would have pointed his finger at him and cursed. If I could have provoked Ho-Oh, would I have stayed in this shabby ball for so long? Lu Feng looked at his expression, his eyes filled with mockery, and couldn't help but curl his lips. You know the photographer is a god, don't you? You dared to touch its power in the past? Do you think you're Guliu? As if sensing the meaning in Lu Feng's eyes, King Peclandus exploded and said, Don't you want to cultivate powerful monsters? My Peclandus Empire possesses the breeding methods of super ancient Pokémon. If you wish, I can teach you. Really? Lu Feng said in disbelief, his face filled with surprise and doubt. The pride of a king disdains lies, King Peclandus said calmly. After confirming that King Peclandus truly knew the breeding methods, Lu Feng put away his disguise, took out many legendary Pokémon items, hung them tightly on his body, and walked towards him step by step. King Peclandus's face was initially filled with excitement when he saw Lu Feng approach. But as Lu Feng drew closer, he sensed that unforgettable aura, and it was like a thunderbolt. He struggled to move backward, shouting, Young man, don't come near me. Looking at the panicked King Peclandus, terrified by the Ho-Oh's presence, Lu Feng bared his teeth and said in a grin, The Ho-Oh told me to tell you, the past isn't over yet. As Lu Feng spoke, he thrust his rainbow feather into the stone ball and threatened, Respected ancient king, if you don't wish to die, please hand over the breeding method for the super ancient Pokémon. As Lu Feng finished speaking, the room suddenly fell silent. King Peclandus gazed at Lu Feng through the small hole in the stone ball, his expression a complex one. Recalling their recent conversation, his face burned. He was absolutely certain that Lu Feng had known his identity the entire time and had been acting with him from the beginning. Judging from the fact that he was able to produce the rainbow feathers of Ho-Oh, it is even possible that Ho-Oh was sent to find him specifically. Only now did he feel full of regret. How could he have been so blinded by greed? He actually set his sights on Ho-Oh, making himself look like a monster. At this moment, he felt weak, pitiful and helpless. King Poclontas thought in a panic, trying to find a way out of the situation. After recalling what Lu Feng had just said, a gleam of light suddenly appeared in his eyes. The young man in front of him had just mentioned the breeding method of super ancient Pokémon. Perhaps he could use this bargaining chip to negotiate with Lu Feng. Thinking of this, King Poclontas smiled and felt that he was okay again. He spoke warmly to Lu Feng. Young man, you want the breeding method for the ancient Pokémon? No problem, as long as you can find me a body and resurrect me, then, not only will I need the breeding method, but even world domination with me will be a piece of cake. Lu Feng glanced sideways, revealing the contempt of a king. He casually injected a wave of energy into the rainbow wing, causing it to emit a brilliant rainbow light that burned King Poclontas' soul. He said, wishful thinking. King Poclontas, stimulated by the power of the rainbow wing, cried out in agony, quick! Quick! Stop! I grant your request. Seeing King Poclontas' agreement, to ensure he was not playing tricks, Lu Feng removed 2 more gem fragments and pressed them tightly against the stone ball. The 3 powerful energies instantly crushed King Poclontas within the stone ball, suffocating him and making him feel like he was about to suffocate. At that moment, Lu Feng's voice suddenly reached him, like a lifeline. Now, recite it to me carefully. If I catch you playing dirty, don't blame me for being unethical. Upon hearing this, King Poclontas quickly agreed and silently recited the breeding method. Initially, he considered cutting out some parts, but upon sensing the growing energy fluctuations around him, he quickly discarded the idea. An hour later, Lu Feng finally obtained the breeding method for the ultra-ancient Pokémon as he had hoped. King Poclontas also revealed the existence of a breeding room within the ruins. A look of surprise crossed Lu Feng's face. After a brief moment of reflection, Lu Feng retrieved a sealed box from his backpack and placed the stone ball and Thunder God's Thunderstone together, carefully storing them. Then, Lu Feng strode towards the room King Poclontas had mentioned. Over 10 minutes later, following King Poclontas' instructions, Lu Feng found the room where ultra-ancient Pokémon could be bred. Looking through the dusty room, Lu Feng searched carefully and discovered that most of the materials were rotten and aged. He could only barely gather enough ingredients for the ritual. After some deliberation, Lu Feng decided to have Jengar perform the ritual. According to King Poclontas, not all Pokémon could complete the ritual, and with only 1 set of materials left, to avoid wasting them, Lu Feng chose Jengar, a creature with a proven track record. Following the instructions for breeding, Lu Feng arranged the materials one by one and gestured for Jengar to step into the ritual. Kauji, Jengar exclaimed excitedly, quickly leaping onto the ritual platform and quietly waiting. A burst of blue light appeared, and the materials throughout the ritual resonated, transforming into a special force that surged wildly into Jengar's body. As Lu Feng watched, Jengar's body began to undergo a dramatic transformation, gradually growing in size. Soon, a Jengar, over 10 meters tall, appeared before Lu Feng. With Jengar's appearance, the ceiling of the entire room ripped open, sending countless rocks plummeting downward. Had he not used Speed Star in time to shatter the falling rocks, Lu Feng would have been buried deep within the ruins. Cough, cough, cough. This is quite dangerous. Lu Feng coughed softly as he emerged from the underground ruins. He gazed at Jengar, whose appearance had drastically changed, and asked anxiously, Jengar, how are you feeling? Jengar glanced towards Lu Feng, feeling the surge of power within him, and said cheerfully, Cao Hui. Seeing that Jengar was alright, Lu Feng nodded, but considering its current size, he felt a sense of worry. Through the wave guide's power, he could clearly determine that the lines covering Jengar's body were responsible for Jengar's growth and sudden increase in strength. These lines held immense energy, the key to Jengar's dramatic increase in strength. Lu Feng stared at the lines in a daze, lost in thought, and began to ponder silently. Chapter 173, Set a small goal and turn the 3 gods of Hoenn into the 4 gods of Hoenn. 10 minutes later, Lu Feng frowned and tentatively asked Jengar, Jengar, see if you can control the lines on your body. Jengar's face lit up with surprise when he heard Lu Feng's words. He nodded and said, Kauji, let me give it a try. As Lu Feng watched, a dazzling light shone from Jengar's body, illuminating every line on its surface. Seeing this scene, Lu Feng couldn't help but smack his lips. If he hadn't known that primal reversion was exclusive to Kyogre and Groudon, Lu Feng would have thought his own Jengar had undergone a primal reversion. After all, the image before him was uncanny, similar to the primal reversion of the Hoenn twins. Furthermore, Lu Feng had learned from King Poclantis that the ultra-ancient breeding method they possessed was modeled after the experiments of the Hoenn twins. Otherwise, they wouldn't call Pokémon bred with such power ultra-ancient Pokémon. But to Lu Feng's disappointment, Jengar wasn't very adept at mastering this power. It couldn't control its size smoothly, and it was following the same path as its predecessors. Kaoji, Lu Feng, no. This power is too strong, I can't control it. Jengar looked at Lu Feng with frustration, saying somewhat helplessly. Come to think of it, if this energy was truly so easily controlled, those ancient Pokémon wouldn't have remained so gigantic. Lu Feng looked up at Jengar, signaling it not to worry, and began to ponder. Time slipped slowly, and in the blink of an eye, an entire afternoon had passed. But Lu Feng still hadn't come up with a solution. He could only watch Jengar, with its enormous body erected, sit quietly in an open field not far away. Fortunately, they were located on the outskirts of Nibe City, deep in the mountains, a place rarely visited. Otherwise, Miss Chuncha from Nibe City would have arrived long ago, leading a team to siege Lu Feng's Jengar. Because Jengar's appearance was so terrifying, its aura so overwhelming, the nearby city of Nibe was powerless to withstand Jengar's surge of power. Jengar, nurtured through the power of the ancient past, harnessed its unique strength to comprehend the aura of a celestial king, its power reaching the pinnacle of a celestial king. If it weren't for the excessive loss of energy from the materials used in the ritual, Jengar's power might have been even greater. Lu Feng pondered with a headache, realizing he had been careless this time, forgetting the side effects of the ancient past. The moon rose above the willows, and the bonfire grew brighter. The evening breeze rustled through the nearby forest, rustling the trees and sending countless leaves rustling down, drifting down onto Lu Feng's head. Lu Feng dozed off, searching for a solution. He brushed the leaves overhead, sweeping them down and placing them one by one in front of the bonfire. Suddenly, as he gazed at the leaves, a flash of inspiration struck his mind. He suddenly raised his head and looked towards the woods not far away, as if he had caught some inspiration. Leaves, trees, single, whole, Lu Feng murmured softly, but the light in his eyes gradually brightened. He hurriedly rummaged through his space backpack, and after searching for a while, he finally found what he wanted. He held two items of different colors tightly in his hands, his expression full of excitement, and the sleepiness on his face was swept away. Lu Feng quickly came to Jengar's side, woke up the sleeping Jengar, told it his idea, and threw the two items in his hand directly into its right hand. Jengar's eyes lit up when he heard Lu Feng's words. He slowly sat up and nodded at Lu Feng, saying, Kaoji, Lu Feng, I understand, but how should I do it? Lu Feng shouted to Jengar, first, comprehend these two orb fragments, and then try to separate and compress your own power into an orb-like object. Understanding Lu Feng's meaning, Jengar focused his attention on the two tiny orb fragments in his right hand, diligently trying to understand the principle of their formation. Time passed, bit by bit, from night to day, and then from day to night. In the blink of an eye, 4 days had passed. Lu Feng looked at Jengar anxiously, but he said nothing, not wanting to put pressure on him. After 4 days of exploration and experience, Jengar gradually grasped the principles of the two orbs' construction. Carefully placing the fragments in front of Lu Feng, he nodded and said, Kaoji, Lu Feng, I figured it out. Now I'll try your method. Hearing this, Lu Feng couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. With a touch of encouragement, he looked at Jengar with anticipation. The patterns on Jengar's body lit up again, emitting an ancient, heavy aura and a faint sense of oppression. With its strenuous control, the energy within it flowed like a river, frantically converging towards its chest. Through constant compression and shearing, it began to coalesce into the shape of an illusory orb. Jengar's body also began to change, returning to its original form. Seeing his method nearly successful, Lu Feng's heart leaped into his throat, and he became extremely nervous. Bang! Suddenly, there was a loud explosion, and the illusory orb in front of Jengar suddenly exploded. The force of compression and exfoliation poured back into Jengar's body, causing it to expand to a length of more than 10 meters once again. Lu Feng frowned at the scene before him, and asked Jengar with confusion, Jengar, is there something wrong? Kaoji, Lu Feng, the capacity of my condensed orb is limited, it can't store such a huge amount of energy. Jengar scratched his head, thought carefully, and then spoke. After hearing Jengar's explanation, Lu Feng let out a long sigh. As long as his method wasn't flawed, the rest would be easy to solve. He was silent for a moment, then his gaze fell on the two orb fragments in his hand and he sighed softly. Lu Feng told Jenger to wait here while he went to Nibe City to help him find a solution. Half a day later, Lu Feng returned from Nibe City with a purple orb in his hand. Lu Feng had spent a large sum of Reliance coins to have this orb crafted by a shop in Nibe City that manufactures glassware from volcanic ash. The raw materials for this purple orb were precisely the fragments of the red and blue orbs. Lu Feng placed the purple orb in front of Jenger and instructed it to use its power to absorb it into its body, experimenting. Jenger sensed the extraordinary energy within the purple orb and nodded slightly. He once again attempted to purify and compress its own internal energy, channeling it towards the purple orb. Under Lu Feng's gaze, the lines on Jenger's body gradually dimmed, and its body began to slowly recover. As Jenger's energy continued to flow into it, the purple orb began to vibrate violently. However, because the purple orb contained the power of Groudon and Kyogre, it did not shatter as it had last time. Instead, it gradually turned a deep, dark purple, emitting a mysterious glow. Lu Feng observed the recovered Jenger, and his tense body gradually relaxed. Having lost its ultra-ancient energy, Jenger's strength returned to its original state, but the Celestial King aura it had comprehended remained. If Jenger could raise its strength to the peak of Quasi-Elite King, it would undoubtedly enter the Ultra-Elite realm. Lu Feng pondered for a moment, then said to Jenger, "Jenger, see if you can resonate with the dark purple orb within your body to enter the Ultra-Ancient." Jenger received Lu Feng's command and began to resonate with the dark purple orb. With a burst of light, Jenger's body transformed into the form of an Ultra-Ancient Jenger, measuring over 10 meters in length. To Lu Feng's surprise, with this return of power, the pattern on Jenger's abdomen gradually transformed into the symbol Greek letter sigma. Is it because of the influence of Groudon and Kyogre's power? Lu Feng stared at the symbol on Jenger's abdomen, a look of disbelief on his face, and he spoke in a trance. Because the dark purple orb was crafted from fragments of the red and blue orbs, Jenger was inevitably influenced by the power of the Hoenn twin gods. Now, the dark purple orb within Jenger's body has become its exclusive item. While it can't compare to the twin gods of Hoenn, it's certainly a promising future. Greek letter omega plus Greek letter alpha equals Greek letter sigma. So, once Jenger reaches legendary, will it also be able to imitate Keldia's transformation of the three swordsmen into the four swordsmen, transforming the three gods of Hoenn into the four gods of Hoenn? Lu Feng rubbed his chin, a quizzical thought in his eyes. After a week of hard work, Lu Feng finally solved Jenger's problem and achieved his goal. Only 3 days remained until the Quartz Conference. After a brief moment of reflection, Lu Feng and Jenger left the camp where they had been staying for a week, returning to the Nibe City Pokémon Center to wash up. Then, using Charizard's power, he headed towards the Quartz Plateau. Chapter 174. You tell me this is Eevee? February 2nd, Friday. After 2 days of travel, Lu Feng arrived at the Quartz Plateau. The Quartz Plateau lies west of the Kanto region, connected to the Silver Mountains of the Johto region. The Kanto and Johto leagues are located here. The Quartz Plateau was bustling with a diverse crowd of trainers and spectators. There shouldn't be too few competitors in this Quartz tournament. It seems there are quite a few talented trainers from Blue Star, Lu Feng murmured softly, a hint of surprise in his eyes as he surveyed the crowd. Due to the world fusion, this Quartz tournament was significantly larger than in the original story. However, Lu Feng didn't pay much attention, simply glancing around and leaving. After a careful search, he followed a sign in front of the Quartz Arena to the nearby athletes' village. He took out his collection of 8 Kanto region badges, handed them to the village staff, and registered for the competition. After confirmation from the staff, Lu Feng successfully registered for this year's Quartz tournament. Led by the staff, he slowly made his way to his dormitories within the athletes' village. Lu Feng surveyed the surroundings of the village, nodding in appreciation of its layout. Built atop the Quartz Plateau, the village was surrounded by mountains and trees, with distant views of rivers and lakes. A gentle breeze carried the fragrance of flowers and plants, creating a soothing and relaxing atmosphere. 10 minutes later, Lu Feng arrived at his dormitories. Sitting on his soft bed, he casually unfolded the trainer's manual he had received at the athletes' village and silently read the rules of the Quartz tournament. Similar to the rules of the original anime, the Quartz tournament consisted of preliminaries and the main tournament. The preliminaries were held in 4 arenas: rock, grass, water, and ice. The format was 3 vs 3, and only those who defeated their opponents in all 4 arenas would qualify for the main tournament. After entering the main tournament, the battle venue would be replaced with a main venue, with trainers competing based on the number of players present. The format would change to a 6v6 all-comers battle until the top 32 players were selected. After reviewing the rules, Feng silently nodded and turned on the television in his room. The opening ceremony was being broadcast live. Despite the large number of participants this year, the historical trajectory of the quartz tournament remained largely unchanged. Satoshi was still the torch runner, and the three idiots from Team Rocket, just like in the original story, disrupted the opening ceremony. In the end, thanks to Satoshi's intervention, they successfully defeated the three true protagonists. Feng watched the humorous scene on TV, a smile playing on his lips, and he shook his head slightly. After a 2-hour rest, Feng left the dormitories in the athletes' village and arrived at the quartz arena. Following the staff's guidance, he drew his own battle venue. Blue light flickered and pulsed across the 4 battle venues: water, grass, rock, and ice. After Feng pressed the button in front of him, the blue light finally froze. The battle venue displayed on the screen was the rock field. The rock field. Feng looked at the results before him and turned away without hesitation. But before he had gone far, he heard a familiar voice behind him, stopping him in his tracks. Confused, Feng turned his head and glanced behind him. He saw Feng, Rankai, and the others standing not far away, staring at him with surprise. Feng, it really is you. I thought I was seeing things. Feng smiled, quickly walked over to Feng, and patted him firmly on the shoulder with his right hand. Feng feigned pain, his face etched with a look of pain, and said to the crowd, "Hiss. President Wu and everyone, long time no see." Feng glanced at him in surprise, thinking he had used too much force. But after seeing the change in Feng's expression, he understood what had happened. "Good boy. When did you learn to act? You're still so good at pretending." Feng scolded him with a smile. "Are you all here for the quartz tournament?" Feng smiled, glanced around, counted the crowd, and asked hesitantly. As if sensing Feng's confusion, Rankai and the others nodded and explained, "The number of people from Blue Star participating in the quartz tournament this time will be no less than 3,000. Of course, most of them are challenging the easier gyms, not the 8 major gyms like you." After hearing Rankai's explanation, Feng gradually understood. After a brief exchange, Feng parted ways with Feng and the others and returned to his dormitory. The next day, with a cannon salute, the quartz tournament officially began. Feng walked out of the contestant village and, following the instructions from the organizing committee, headed towards his competition venue. His opponent was already waiting at the battleground, a little fat man who was little known in the Pokémon world. Upon seeing Feng arrive at the competition venue, he raised the red and white ball in his hand, gave Feng a provocative look, and confidently declared, "I'll make you the first opponent I defeat at the quartz tournament." Feng gave him a strange look, then met the gaze of the Eevee on his shoulder, a bewildered expression on his face. He didn't know where this chubby little fellow got the confidence to say such a thing. The referee, watching the two take their positions, read out the rules and announced the start of the match. Seeing the match begin, Feng didn't think twice before sending the Eevee on his shoulder out. The little Eevee, with its short legs, leaped from Feng's shoulders and landed on the rock field. "Wow! It's Eevee. It looks so cute." The female spectators, watching the match, were instantly captivated by the adorable appearance of Feng's Eevee and couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. The chubby little man across from Feng was stunned. He hadn't expected Feng's first Pokémon to be Eevee, a pet kept by most trainers. For a moment, the chubby little man's smile widened, and his gaze toward Feng grew even more disdainful. After a moment's thought, he pulled out a red and white ball from his waist and threw it toward the rocky field, releasing a gigantic, toad-like, 4-legged Pokémon with a turquoise complexion and a giant flower on its back. One of the 3 great Pokémon of Kanto, Venusaur. Feng stared at the Pokémon before him, glancing curiously. On the grassy field, the massive Venusaur and the petite Eevee formed a stark contrast. The female trainers watching the battle couldn't bear to watch what was about to happen. They turned their heads away and glanced at Feng with a hint of resentment. The other male trainers shook their heads, expressing their disapproval of Feng and Eevee. After all, Eevee's appearance was truly deceptive. A moment later, Feng gave Eevee a command, softly saying, "Eevee, blazing, Eevee." Eevee cried out crisply upon receiving Feng's command, and a blazing flame condensed from its body, launching itself towards Venusaur. The flames, like a dancing dragon, instantly descended upon Venusaur, carrying scorching heat. As everyone stared in disbelief, the elite Venusaur was instantly killed. The little fat man watched the scene with a look of utter horror, a stunned expression. Audience, a bomba. A bomba. A bomba. Eevee glanced sideways at the fallen Bulbasaur, tilted its little head back, glanced toward the viewing platform, and called out triumphantly, Bulbasaur. After a long moment, the spectators suddenly came to their senses and stared at the Eevee in the rock field with strange expressions, looking him around. Holy crap, could this be Eevee? Isn't Sunny Day the only fire-type move Eevee can learn? What's going on? A male trainer observing the match said in shock. Then, at the referee's signal, the little fat man, in a daze, withdrew his Bulbasaur and sent out an elite-level Pidgeot to attack Eevee first. Pidgeot, wing attack. Pidgeot spread its massive wings, quickly approached Eevee, and slammed into it. Feng watched the battle unfold before him and nonchalantly said to Eevee, Mom, shock. Eevee, gazing at the approaching Pidgeot, gently flicked its tail and leaped forward. Golden electricity erupted from its body, scattering towards the oncoming Pidgeot. Instantly, golden lightning snakes danced wildly, hissing as they descended upon Pidgeot. After sustaining the fatal blow, Pidgeot plummeted from the sky, instantly incapacitated. The spectators watched in astonishment. They hadn't expected Eevee to use not only fire-type moves, but also electric-type ones. Seeing the little fat man send out his final Pokémon, an elite-level Diglett, a thought crossed everyone's minds. Would Eevee use a water-type or grass-type move to end the match? As expected, upon seeing Diglett, Feng had Eevee use a living bubble, draining all of Diglett's energy. Feng thus won the match and headed towards the draw with his Eevee. Although they had already left and the match was over, many of the spectators remained stunned. After a long moment, one spectator regained consciousness and said excitedly, You're telling me this is Eevee? This isn't Arceus in an Eevee skin. Could it be that Eevee has potential we haven't discovered yet? Another spectator asked thoughtfully, chin in hand. After coming to their senses, many trainers gradually made up their minds to capture or adopt an Eevee. So much so that after the quartz tournament, the price of Eevee Pokemon eggs skyrocketed, making many breeding houses earn a lot of league coins. Chapter 175 Feng, does this count as me beating you to tears? After the first qualifying match, Feng returned to the venue draw. This time, Feng's venue was the ice arena. After a brief wait, the arena announcement began again. Feng, accompanied by Eevee, followed the match information and arrived at the venue for their second match. As they entered the arena, the entire arena's attention was focused on them. More precisely, on Eevee. Sensing the numerous gazes, Eevee shyly shielded its face with its delicate paw pads, burying its head in Feng's arms. Look! That's the Eevee. Not only can it use fire-type skills, but it can also use water-type and electric-type skills. Someone who had watched Feng's previous match and had come to him excitedly pointed at the Eevee in Feng's arms and said to their companions excitedly. The spectators' companions, upon hearing his words, thought it was a farce. A strange expression crossed their faces, as if to say, Are you kidding me? As everyone knows, Eevee's genes are unstable, and only after evolving can it learn some of its type's attacks. Therefore, the trainer thought his companion was joking and didn't take it too seriously. But then, upon catching a glimpse of the ice arena, he was stunned and completely distracted. On the ice arena, Feng's Eevee unleashed 3 moves, Grass-type Boomerang, Dark-type Territory, and Ice-type Frost Freeze, instantly annihilating all 3 of the opponent's Pokémon and securing the victory. Not long after, the spectator's companion finally came to his senses and, with a frantic expression, shouted, Tell me this is all fake. I'm dreaming. How could a cured Eevee be so mad? The spectator let out a wry smile, sighed, and began to comfort his companion, trying to get him to accept the reality. Such incidents occurred frequently in the stands, gradually forming a unique spectacle. As word spread, the legend of the Brown Demon gradually spread throughout the quartz tournament. Although Feng had heard the rumors, he didn't take them too seriously, simply laughing them off. Feng continued competing in the tournament, leading his Eevee to sweep the water and grass fields, successfully qualifying for the main tournament and concluding the first day. The next day saw the preliminaries again. Seeing no one was there, Feng stayed in the contestant village, quietly awaiting the start of the main tournament. The preliminaries finally concluded on the third evening, demonstrating the sheer number of participants in this tournament. On the morning of the fourth day, the rising sun brought a vibrant atmosphere. After breakfast, Feng headed straight for the tournament. Yesterday's matches had informed the spectators of a special EV appearance at the quartz tournament. To avoid a disturbance, Feng didn't release his EV and instead arrived at the competition venue alone. After a brief period of selecting opponents, the match information for Feng's first round of the main tournament finally arrived. 10 a.m., Section A, third match, Feng whispered, looking at the information before him. After receiving the match information, Feng strode towards his match venue. There are so many people today, he casually glanced at the stands, and sighed at the number of people, which was significantly higher than in previous days. Arriving at the players' rest area, Feng folded his arms, closed his eyes, and waited for the match to begin. Time passed, and the 2 morning matches were over in the blink of an eye. After waiting for nearly 2 hours, it was finally Feng's turn. Following the announcement, Feng made his way along the players' passage towards Section A. Soon, he arrived at his match venue, where his opponent had been waiting for a long time. Feng gradually approached the players' battle area and glanced at the trainer opposite him, a look of surprise on his face. A trainer from Blue Planet Britain, Feng muttered to himself, gazing at the fair-skinned, British-looking girl across from him. The referee, seeing Feng in his seat, read out the rules to both teams. Seeing neither of them objected, he announced in a deep, serious voice, the next match is between trainer Feng and trainer Katie. Feng will attack first, and Katie will launch her Pokémon second. If both teams are ready, the match officially begins. Feng and Katie nodded to the referee, signaling the start of the match. Feng then tossed a Pokémon ball and sent out his own Pokémon. Katie, on the other side, saw that Feng had sent out a Pokémon, and after a moment's contemplation, her beautiful eyes flashed with a sharpness as she sent out an electric dragon. Judging from the Dragonite's aura, it was likely a gym-level Dragonite. Feng stared at the Dragonite before him, his eyes filled with wonder. Considering that most of the recent tournaments had been featuring elite-level trainers, the sudden appearance of a gym-level trainer was quite surprising. But then he realized that this trainer, named Katie, was from Blue Planet and, with the system's help, could rapidly improve her Pokémon strength. Something clicked. While Blue Planet trainers' strength improved rapidly, they had a fatal flaw. Their early Pokémon were often weak, rarely reaching gym-level rank. This meant that once they reached the upper limit of their Pokémon strength, they were often unable to advance further, remaining stuck at their current level. Unless they could obtain items like the Silver Crown or the Gold Crown, which could improve Pokémon's rank, their Pokémon would have no chance of further improvement. This was a limitation imposed by the system to maintain a balance between the two worlds. Are you trying to defeat me by leveraging your stat advantage? Feng looked at Dragonite for a long moment, then glanced at Katie, and whispered. Katie heard Feng's voice, a hint of wildness in her beautiful eyes as she confidently declared, being able to leverage your attributes to win is also part of tactical strength. Feng scoffed and didn't respond. Instead, he turned his gaze to Tajukas and gave it the command, Tajukas, Tajukas. Upon hearing Feng's words, Tajukas soared into the sky, chirping softly as invisible air blades emerged from its body. With a sharp aura, they sliced through layers of air and slashed towards the lightning dragon. Katie saw the air blade slashing towards the lightning dragon, her brow furrowed slightly, and she quickly called to the lightning dragon, Electric Dragon, use the electromagnetic cannon to counterattack. Upon receiving Katie's command, the tip of the lightning dragon's tail gleamed brightly, the ruby on its forehead lit up faintly, and a hissing arc of electricity rippled across its body. Like a cannonball, a massive current of energy rapidly erupted in the direction of the air slash. Boom! Instantly, two powerful skills collided. Exploding in an instant. The intense battle surge whips up a powerful air current, sweeping in all directions. Dust filled the air. Thick smoke billowed. All vision was obscured by the thick haze, making it impossible to discern the precise situation. Feng gazed at the enshrouded battlefield before him and said to Tajukas calmly, Tajukas, at 1 o'clock, continue using air slash. Tajukas, a hollow cry echoed from the thick smoke, and a sharp blade of air slashed through the shroud, striking again towards the Dragonite. Seeing the scene before her, Katie's face showed an anxious expression. She called to the Dragonite, Dragonite, get out of the way. However, due to the thick smoke, The Dragon Knight could not discern the direction of the attack and had no time to dodge, being directly hit by Tajikas's air slash. A look of pain crossed its face, as if it had suffered considerable damage. Furthermore, under the influence of Tajikas's super luck and divine grace abilities, the flinch effect of air slash was triggered. Despite Katie's commands, the wounded Dragon Knight remained unmoved, taking 2 air slashes from Tajikas and collapsing to the ground, unable to fight. "What a talent!" Lu Feng exclaimed in amazement, looking at the falling Dragon Knight and then glancing at the soaring Tajikas. Katie remained silent for a long moment as she gazed at the incapacitated Dragon Knight. She silently dispatched her next Pokémon. Katie's second Pokémon was a peak-level Elite Golduck. She intended to use her psychic powers to restrain Tajikas's movements. However, due to the disparity in power, Tajikas easily broke free of its telekinetic restraints and continued to use air slash on Golduck, destroying it. Lu Feng's gaze was as calm as water, quietly observing the battle before him, waiting for Katie's third Pokémon. Katie looked at the Tajikas in the air with a pale face, as if she was looking at a devil. After a long time, under the urging of the referee, she sent out her last Pokémon. This was a gym-level sunflower monster, with a smiling face like a sunflower, looking at the Tajikas in the air nervously. Lu Feng looked at the sunflower monster on the field from a distance and couldn't help laughing. Without wasting any more time, he quickly asked Tajikas to use air slash. With the advantage of its attributes, Tajikas defeated the sunflower monster in an instant and won the first game of the main competition. Lu Feng slowly retracted his Pokémon and looked in the direction of Katie. When he saw her expression that seemed to be sobbing, he touched his nose awkwardly and said a little strangely, "Does this count as being made to cry by me?" End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.